Good morning, Ghana, and even special good morning to our cherished viewers from wherever you're watching us from, be it online on your digital terrestrial channel or on DSTV. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the AM show on Joy News, your home of independent, credible, and fearless journalism. Now, there are a myriad of things happening in the country that we'll get into today, but first, we'll serve you the news. Myself, I'll bring you the news. And then right after that, the MPP parliamentary candidate hopeful for Ifija Kwabre South, George Sapong, will be our guest on the AM show for the news review. Right after that, Mumbarak Haruna will present the AM Sports, and then we'll get into the big stories. Now, today we have a conversation on the labor issues going on. Strike here, strike there, agitations about the 15% VAT on electricity above level, lifeline level consumers. All that on the show from now till 10 a.m. We'll also talk about child malnutrition and obesity. The stats are a bit alarming, mostly for women. We'll get into the details of all that. And then we'll speak to the Pediatric Society of Ghana on the show to give us more insights on what's happening. It's 2 days to parliamentary primaries of the governing New Patriotic Party. We've been hosting some aspirants this week. We would also hear from a man who wants to be a parliamentary candidate for Abirim, Frank Ahima Mreku, who is our guest later on the show. We will also open the phone lines for you to have your say, whether on social media or calling at the latter part of the show. You know the show is about you, like I always say, and it's for you. So join us, whatever your thoughts are, feel free to share it. Welcome to the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I do this with Benjamin Akakpo. Let's settle now for the news. It's still the AM show. This is the AM news, but let's begin from our election headquarters, where only 12 women are contesting the parliamentary primaries of the New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region. This represents barely 9% of total of women participating in the political exercise. Communication Minister Eslo Wusu, along with the Minister of Foreign Affairs Shirley Ayoko Boche, visited the Ofori-Krom constituency to support Claudia Lumo in their quest to strengthen female leadership in the party. Here's a report by Clinton Yeboah.
The Ofori-Krom NPP parliamentary primary is fiercely being contested by 5 contenders, including 1 female. Female participation is seemingly very low in the NPP's internal contest, with a percentage of less than 10 in the Ashanti region. The incumbent MP for Ablekuma West and Minister of Communication, Esla Owusu, is taken aback by the low involvement of women. She admonishes party heads and delegates to prioritize female aspirants in Saturday's election.
It's absolutely critical that we improve the representation of women in Parliament. We're nowhere near enough. And so when you identify a potential strong contender, you give them all the support that you can. We should do more to protect the women who have braved the odds and overcome so many challenges to vie for political office. We must do more to strengthen them, build them up, and encourage them. And so I see in Claudia a potential strong female leader in this country. That's why I've left my contest to come and plead with the delegates in Ofori-Krom to help us by bringing her to Parliament and enabling us to also work with her. Our governance structures, even the executive, doesn't mirror the country, and it should. At least 30% of the seats in Parliament should be filled by women.
Esla visited the Ofori-Krom constituency to support Claudia Lumo, the only female in the constituency primary. Claudia is hopeful of carrying the day in Saturday's polls.
I'm just praying that the people of Ofori-Krom will see my good heart and see what I want to do, the kind of service I want to provide, and they vote for me. That's all I'm asking people of Ofori-Krom.
Notable NPP female party leaders were spotted on the campaign platform encouraging delegates to vote for Claudia Lumo. The list included Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayoko Boche.
Array on your government appointee on board membership input. And so, when to me I work for Ofori-Krom.
obi say mutanechia on the mojambo da.
Reporting for Joy News, Clinton Yeboah.
Now, 529 delegates will decide the fate of incumbent Member of Parliament for Sisala East, Amidu Ishaku, and 45-year-old political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Joshua Jebunata Zato. The duo are locked in a heated contest dubbed the Battle of Uncle and Nephew. Rafiq Salam takes a look at the primaries in the region.
There will be a heated contest in one of 3 constituencies in the Upper West region, where the ruling New Patriotic Party (NPP) has sitting members of Parliament. Interior Minister Ambrose Derry goes unopposed following the disqualification of Alex Mould, who could not carry through his bribery and threat of having his name on the ballot for the Nandom NPP parliamentary primary.
That if it is the will of the God I worship, that I'll be on that ballot. I've told them I'll be on that ballot. Amen.
Ambrose Derry is seen by many as a minister and parliamentarian that brings more development to his constituents and the region at large in recent years. Though the people are heaping lots of commendation and encomiums on him, he rather prefers to put the credit to the people.
I owe whatever good I've done first to God and secondly to the good people of Upper West. You were with me when I came as regional minister. When I started the first fight of time, of Ambrose Derry time, the people didn't fail me. You call me super because wherever I go, I relate, my people relate to me well. Any part of this region, they give me the respect. And as long as they do that, you see me as super. But in the end, I think the citizens of this region are the super people.
Municipal Chief Executive for Nandom, Raymond Nero, posited that the work of the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, has endeared him to the heart of many, including members of the opposition NDC.
You don't need somebody to come and tell you that these are the works of Honorable Ambrose. Talk about the roads. The very first day in Parliament, when he just went February 2017, we saw work began on our roads in Nandom. We've seen the young men who have been recruited. We've seen the boreholes. We've seen the schools. Everything is working in Nandom. Amidst the challenges we face in Ghana, in the country, but things are working. It's just because of the man, Honorable Ambrose, we have. And so, anybody who is an MPP man in Nandom believes that or agrees with every stakeholder that Honorable Ambrose should represent the people of Nandom.
In neighboring Lambuse constituency, Dr. Yelvira Dombaligi is also going solo.
I might not be the best candidate, but I think my people that have flanked me feel that I have done some good work in the 3 years, and they think I should continue. But at a point in time, when they feel I have exhausted my ideas, they may come to contest.
Deputy Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Amidu Ishaku, however, is not enjoying same luck in the Sisal East constituency as he is being challenged by a lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Joshua Jebunata Zato. Mind you, this is a constituency in the last 20 years that has the penchant of changing their legislatures after every 4 years. Amidu Ishaku is already aware of that and bent on breaking the 4 years political cycle. He believes that his record will show in the polls.
He's my maternal uncle. I mean, my mother and him come from the same home. But you know. Do you have any better plan? No. There's difference between theory and practicals. This election is theory against practicals. I'm a practical politician who knows the terrain. My coming to the constituency to interact and to be with the people has been consistent. You virtually find me in the constituency every week, every 2 weeks, attending social gatherings and interacting with the constituents. I have not, stayed away from the people who voted for me, and consistently I have been with them. Beyond that, in terms of development, I mean, under the difficult economic circumstances as a result of the global pandemic, but Sisala East has gotten a good share of development in terms of roads. We are having a major water project that you yourself came and covered the handing over of site, and the contractor is in advanced stage of completing an over 18 million water project, which will take care of even population growth beyond 20 years.
Dr. Kuso Jebuntie, however, averred that he is not a political rookie, as claimed by the incumbent member of parliament. He opined that the constituency is sick and needs the service of a doctor which is ready to fill in with Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
So the whole country, the whole of the NPP rallied and said, look, we need a medical doctor, or in this case, we need a doctor to solve the problems of Ghana. They went for an astute academic, intelligent, smart man, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Well, the problem of Sisala is to now need a doctor. So Sisala East will choose another doctor, another astute academic like me, Dr. Joshua Jebuntie Zato. If the two doctors, and my position is number 2, think about it, it's prophetic. The gods of Tumu and the gods of our land, the Tumu here that have ordained it. Number 2, we have 2 doctors standing on the bedside of Sisala East. In 2025, Sisala East will be healed. Development will come. Progress will come because the 2 doctors cannot fail Sisala East and Madagana.
529 delegates will decide their fate on January 27. Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam.
That's it from our election headquarters. Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Ifia, Joseph Kujo, is advocating for the establishment of more local football pitches to train more talent for the nation's football teams. According to him, the poor performance of the Black Stars in their recent fixtures can be blamed on the inability of managers of the nation's football team to raise local talent. He spoke at a sword-cutting ceremony for the construction of an astroturf for the Ifia Ekutufom community in the Western region. There's more in the following report. We'll bring you back that story later, but the environmental officer of the Sekondi Takoradi Metropolitan Assembly, Karim Hundu, says the assembly will embark on a massive typhoid vaccination for all food vendors in the metropolis to rid the metro of the disease. Speaking to Joy News on the day of the STMA Joy News Operation Clean Your Surrounding campaign, he explained a screening done for most food vendors on a typhoid showed positive, hence the need for the vaccination. Correspondent Inatalia Kwansa, who joined the team, has come through with this report.
The Sekondi Takoradi Metropolitan Assembly, through the EU-funded Twin Cities in Sustainable Partnership project, in collaboration with Joy News, has commenced the unannounced visit to inspect the sanitary condition of households and commercial facilities in the metropolis as part of the campaign dubbed Operation Clean Your Surroundings.
From now up to middle of the year, we'll be visiting various communities unannounced to inspect various food joint, public toilet facilities, households, and a host of others. In fact, we'll be going to the hotels and then the restaurants as well. So this is basically to remind the public of their responsibilities to make sure that they keep their surroundings clean, make sure that they work in accordance with standards that the Assembly, through environmental health, has given them to follow. So that's basically what this campaign is all about. So we'll be again going out unannounced. The next will be at the Sekondi Sub-Metro, and then our next visit will be Eskad-Katang. And what we plan doing is that we're following up to some of the areas where we visited today, and we'll be visiting for the next 2 meetings.
The program started from the Takoradi Sub-Metro with visits to 8 food preparation and vending points, 2 public places of convenience, 2 bakeries, a flour mill, a drinking bar, and transport terminal. The nuisance found include lack of standard dustbin, exposed foods to silt, to dust and flies in sanitary drains with refuse, preparing food under insanitary condition, selling food without medical certificates of fitness, accumulation of particles packed hazardly which is likely to harbor reptiles, rodents, and cause accidents on premises. The task force, headed by the Metro Environmental Health Officer Abdul Karim Hudu, issued caution notice to operators of some facilities visited.
Now let's take you back to our previous story from Efia to Form, where Member of Parliament Joseph Kujo is advocating for the establishment of more local football pitches to train more talent for the nation's football teams. Here's the report.
Ghana is seen as one of the top footballing nations on the African continent, having won the AFCON on 4 different occasions. However, in recent times, the performances of the Black Stars in major tournaments have seen a major decline. Ghana won her last AFCON trophy 42 years ago, and all attempts at winning the trophy since then has not been successful. The Member of Parliament for Efia constituency, Joseph Kujo, believes talent for the Black Stars must be nurtured from the local level by providing pitches for training.
For me, today, standing here, we keep complaining about the performance of Black Stars. I think there is talent shortage in the country. If we're sincere, when you look at how we have organized talent nurturing activities and talent nurturing activities to beef up soccer player selection into the future, we have lost a lot of time. We haven't given attention to sports soccer, which nurtures the talent also. And my own experience, nurturing such talents in intensive, where I own Villa Fit Soccer Club. I've seen a lot of people make it to the international scene. Since 2007, when I started, I've seen guys attracting international attention. Okay, and I think that is what is lacking in the country, and specifically the secondary sector. I see the Efia community link as facilitating this talent match. Even though we haven't gone far in terms of years, I've already seen a talent appear to play for talents. And I've seen one talent from the Efia community also get a call up to Black Stars. One player called Mugi, who currently plays for Libya. And so, people like Muspaka, who are dancing soccer, certainly need pool of players to tap from, who have gone through nurturing, and then when they do the professional division and so on, you have people coming from the fourth, second division, third division, and graduating to the professional league, and then making transitions to national teams. That we have not been doing as a country. So what I'm doing in my country is to create that environment.
The Astroturf project, which is expected to be completed in the next 2 months, is a collaboration with the Ghana National Gas Company Limited. Francis Beidu is head of CSR at the Ghana Gas in the Western region.
Apparently, one of the objectives of the company to provide CSR project affected now is a countrywide project we have decided. So it is not just out of the blue. It is not out of the blue that we are doing this. Because as I did say, we have a lot of applications, a lot of people who want the Astroturf in their community.
Now, Member of Parliament for Yapei Kusaugu, John Dinapo, says he will continue to push to get a permanent solution to flooding in Bupe. According to the MP, some provisions have been made in the budget and they will work to get the issue addressed. Mr. Dinapo spoke after the Red Cross donated relief items to flood victims in Bupe.
The Bupe floods affected over 6,000 residents in 2023, according to NADMO, destroying properties worth thousands of Ghana cedis. The MP for Yapei Kuso, John Dinapo, said there was the need to find a lasting solution to the crisis.
I do know that some huge provision has been made for relief items and reconstruction in the budget. So we'll continue to push and pray that government will come to support the people. If they move back there, the water will rise again. We're going to have a major problem. You never know when this water will go beyond this level. And as the water keeps coming up, it means that the structural integrity of the building keeps weakening, and the buildings can begin to collapse anytime soon. So I think that we have held a higher elevation. I've spoken to the DC. He's very cooperative. We are working together, and I hope that in collaboration with the DC, together, we'll be able to find a permanent solution to this challenge.
The Secretary General of the Ghana Red Cross, Gayoni Bulu Solomon, said the Red Cross would continue to support people in need.
This is not the first time we are doing this. The Red Cross in Ghana has been working silently on so many projects and operations. To mention a few, we have carried out, in collaboration with the Ghana Health Service, 40,000 free surgeries for needy people in the northern, upper east, and the broad Ahafo regions. We have provided 40 modified farm truck ambulances for rural areas in the upper east region to transport pregnant women in labor. We have supported the construction of 320 houses for flood victims in the upper east, northeast, and Savannah regions. We have provided 56 special emergency family kits, which sheltered 336 displaced persons in the Qatar tidal waves.
Some of the victims thanked the Red Cross for the support.
For what appreciation they have helped us. They will plead with them. They should get a landmark to help us to relocate ourselves so that we can sit well, so that we will not be losing a lot of our belongings again. So I'm very grateful to them.
The Red Cross for us.
We thank the Red Cross for the support, but what we want government to do is to find a land and relocate us.
The Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition is calling for peace in areas plagued with conflict to ensure the education of children in those areas. Speaking at an event to mark the International Day for Education, Chairman of GINEC, Kwesi Oije, stressed the need to safeguard the fundamental rights of children because education, according to him, is not a mere commodity. There's more in this report. We'll bring you that later in a subsequent bulletin, but that's it for the AM News. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Up next is Benjamin Akakpo for the news review, and he'll be joined by George Sapong, who's a parliamentary candidate hopeful for Efija Kwabre South. Keep watching Joy News.
Time now for the news review on the AM show. Thank you for staying with us, and we get right into it. Of course, it's always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, Spentex opposite the Shell signboard. There's Kumasi, Kronoma Bweha behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Energy State. There's Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and it's Yamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. I would also like to start by saluting a woman who many decades ago gave birth to 3 strong boys. Did everything when their father passed, when these children were very little, to bring them up, give them a sound religious background, a sound educational background, to discipline them when necessary, and to ensure that they grew up to become stalwarts in society. One who has sacrificed life and limb for her children, and a shining example of motherhood. My own mother, Susie Akakbo. Today happens to be your birthday, Ma, and I wish you the very best of the day as you hit 69. God bless you. God bestow his many choicest blessings upon you. May you live long, and may you be joyful, happy, and prosperous, physically and spiritually. And that is my mother, Susie Akakbo, whose birthday is today. Let me now get on and introduce my guest, joining me for this morning's newspaper review, in the person of the NPP's parliamentary candidate hopeful for Ifijakwabre South, George Sapong. He is my guest. Mr. Sapong, a very good morning to you. Hello, Mr. Sapong. You may have to unmute so you can hear me, Mr. Sapong, or you can respond to me. We have Mr. Sapong on, so we'll proceed from here, and as and when we do have him, we'll hear from him. You do know that we're having all these conversations in anticipation of the MPP's parliamentary primaries in those constituencies come Saturday, the 27th. Well, let's get into the newspapers now. Maybe even before we get there, the Black Stars and coach Houghton being asked, Chris Houghton, together with the rest of the technical team, what do you make of that situation? I'd like you to share with me. And of course, there's some insight into that KPMG report on SML. Of course, Ekufuado has rejected the GRA's request to continue with SML's monitoring amid the probe. What are your thoughts on these matters? Of course, Parliament, some think tanks like Imani Africa, among others, raised questions about the entirety of the SML situation, which bleeds the country anything between 700 and 750 million Ghana cedis yearly. Was it worth it? Is it worth it? Should we continue on that trajectory? You can share your thoughts with me on those 2 points, SML and the latest developments, as well as the Black Stars. Is it the way to go that we sack the entire, technical team and then we're good to go? Is that the situation? Well, you can share your thoughts with me on that, ladies and gentlemen, via our live stream. But let me get now into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Looted Asante relics returning home. And some of the artifacts pictured there on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Mpumpunsuo sword, one of the 2 principal state swords of over 300 years. The ceremonial cap, the Demchemche, a gold necklace, and Sankuo or harp of the 1800s. All of these relics pictured here. You would see that crown with horns, abembeng, and all of these taken away, vestiges of colonialism and what it did to us. You know that in Benin, there would be the Benin bronzes and all of those. So many artifacts looted by the French, by the British, from different parts of Africa. And then there's also the story, coup plot, 6 to die, 3 acquitted. It was pretty interesting yesterday. So 6 persons, including 3 soldiers. Maybe before I get into the story, let me just do the other headlines and then I'll get into that. I'm excited about it. So many women opting for C-section worrying. That's according to the Ghana Health Service. $900 million World Bank support. Government receives first tranche of $300 million. And then on the back page, disappointing rain ends Houghton's Ghana adventure. And so that is that. If you look at the different coaches and how long they've lasted. Chris Houghton, 310 days. Otoado, 295 days. Milovan Rajevac, 135 days. Charles Akono, 607 days. Kwesi Appiah, 1,005 days. Wow. And Ghana is one of 6 countries who have asked, 6 African countries, who have asked their coaches on the back of the AFCON performances. George Sapon, good morning to you. Can you hear me now?
Good morning, my brother. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Good to have you join the conversation. What is the latest as far as your preparations are concerned for Ifijakwabre South? Briefly.
Well, this morning I'm meeting my election area coordinators and I'm meeting my constituency executives and some supporters, polling station executives who are also coming in to support. You know, when it comes to elections, one of the key things is to be able to have the necessary logistics to execute what you say you want to do. So ahead of the 2024 election, I, as a parliamentary candidate, I am donating some motorbikes to the party to help the party's work, especially in the areas that are considered hinterland so far as the constituency is concerned. And then I'm also having my final conversations with my electoral area coordinators and my constituency executives ahead of Saturday's election. So all is on course. We are doing our best to ensure that we bring it home. That's what I would say.
How many motorbikes are you distributing?
15.
15. And what's the value of these motorbikes?
I think that the emphasis is rather.
No, I'm just asking the question. What's the value of the motorbikes put together, all the 15? What's the value?
So if you go to the market, the estimated value of one is between 15,000 and 20,000. That's the estimated value of one.
Okay, so let's do some quick mathematics. 15 by 15. So that's 225,000. Did this come out of your pocket?
I'm a young boy. I like to believe that the good Lord has blessed me, which I believe to be so. And so the necessary resources that we need to execute what is ahead of us, thankfully, we have what we need. And in the event that we also need what we do not have, we have a good network that we can always fall back on.
Okay, so part of this came out of your pocket and part of it from support from your network. That's what you're saying.
As to how you choose to see
no,
it.
I'm not choosing, Mr. Sapong. I asked you a question. You said God has blessed you, and then you said that
Yes.
your network. So I'm just asking you, does it mean it partly came from you and partly from your network?
So what I want to say is that, I mean, in this process, all of us know that elections are financially draining. They are costly. So I have been blessed enough to have a good network that is supportive. So everything that I need to do, my personal commitment comes in, and the support also comes in from my network.
Okay, that's good to hear. Good for those who are going to benefit from these motorbikes. I posed some questions about the Black Stars and then, of course, the sacking of the entire technical team as well, and then the latest on the SML. Do you have any thoughts, or do you want us to go straight into the papers?
Okay, for the Black Stars, I think that they are like are sweet and are pain at the same time when they score. I remember Kudus' first goal in a game. It was beautiful. I literally jumped out of my seat, and then the next moment you realize that things are not the way it is to be. Ghanaians are passionate about football. Ghanaians are passionate about our Black Stars especially. And so everything that we need to do to ensure that they keep winning, it's good. For me as a person who is pro-government, I like it when the Black Star win, because when the Black Star wins, there's no pressure on government. You understand? Everybody talks about the victory and everyone is jubilating. And then when we don't, people get back to lambasting government for whatever reasons, you know. So I'm more inclined to the Black Star winning than they losing, especially being a football lover as well. As for the decisions that have been taken, I think that personally I saw them coming, because if we will speak true to ourselves, Chris Hughton has not been too good at the bench. His substitutions and some of the avoidable technical errors are literally unpardonable. And so I think that the decision is not really in bad taste, especially when majority of Ghanaians who are football lovers appear to subscribe to same. What I would rather say is that we should get to a point where we can have a coach who is doing something long term. So if you realize, if German team that won the 2014 World Cup, take a look at the 2014 World Cup, the German team that won is a team that had been prepared for some number of years. And so now we are lucky to have a number of young players in the likes of Kudus, Ashimeru, and Co. Let's have a project and say, for these next 5 years, we are building a certain generation. We no longer have that golden generation in Essien, Muntari, Stephen Asari, Stephen Apia, and then our brother from Germany, Kelvin Prince Boateng. So we don't have that golden generation anymore. But we can build another golden generation from the what we have in our toolbox now. So maybe we could focus, have another coach, give him a long-term plan, and so we move forward. As for the issues around AFCON, I think Ghanaians are naturally angry, and let's not get them angry at them more. Let's mend our wounds and prepare for the future.
I know you don't want to talk about the SML deal, and that's fine. I have a final bit for you when it comes to... I have a final bit for you when it comes to the Black Stars, though.
Okay.
We keep getting here, so I think we might as well talk about it. Politics in our football. Whenever we get here, the football administrators, very recently, one was bribed, refused the bribe, and all of that. But we know about the politics in our football, and I feel it's not taking us anywhere. People have said that former captains, a certain captain, are MPP, NDC. I wish you politicians could just leave our football alone. All you have to do is provide the resources and let the GFA do its thing. But the GFA is another issue altogether. I feel our football, until we get politics out and until we get the right people there doing the right things, following the guidelines, our codes system, pardon my language, is in the toilet. And we are not doing the right thing. And you politicians are also not helping. I remember, you talk about the fact that it's a bad economic time. We were all hoping, because indeed, when the Black Stars or any of our national teams win, it takes away from our sorrows. And we are all happy. We are ecstatic. At least it distracts us for a period. Can you imagine what would have happened if the Black Stars had won this tournament, for example? People would be very excited. But at the same time, we've seen the current president in the past post something like a poor economy, no this, no that, and no Black Stars trophy, no Black Stars victory. You remember that? So that's why I'm saying, what do you think about politics in our football? Isn't it high time we stood up and said, politicians, enough, stay away from our football. Provide the funding and just stay away. Stay away. What do you think?
Okay, so I may have some thoughts that are in line with yours and others that depart from yours. So as for politics, like we all know, it's like the belt that holds our social fabric together. In the media, there is politics. In the clinics, there is politics. In the church, there is politics. And in political party system, properly so-called, there is politics. You cannot, as it were, take away politics from football. The media has it. The football system has its own sorts of politics. What we should rather do is, like you mentioned, try to delineate the football itself from the regular partisan politics, such that we don't tag player A and say player A is MPP. So if he misses a chance, then we say that it is deliberate because at the time the NDC was in power. Those are things that we should desist from, and I think that would be helpful. As for people having interest, even those doing football, they're football people, a number of them identify political parties. We've seen MPs who do football, who are NDC. We've seen CEOs who do football, who are MPP. My own big sister, Gift Yawari, who is an MPP person, she's doing football. She's on a GFA. We've seen the former majority leader, the former minority leader, Haruna Ibusu. He does football. He's NDC. So I think that is not bad in itself, but we need to get to the point where we do not wrap our partisan politics around our football. That's what we need to do. And so, like you said, we also need to get in the necessary investments such that everything moves smoothly as it is supposed to do. And at the end of the day, I believe that if we're able to do these things, go back to the beginning. Myself, I played in Kuso. I played for Anoche Stars around Swami. And so I understand the importance of youth football development. Because almost every country that have gone on to excel at the international level or at the continental level, you realize that there's some level of investment in their football system right from the very, very younger age. If you look at our players who are doing so well now, a number of them are academy players. Take Kudus, for instance. He's been through the Rise to Dream Academy, and you realize that the way they see the football, their approach, their mentality is entirely different. And so for me, I feel that we can go back to the drawing board and rework what we need to rework and move on. Now, on the SML deal, what I would say is that there has been an audit. It is the duty of the president to receive the audit and act on it. For me, as a party person, our president is the leader of government business and the leader of our party at this point in time because we are in government. It is important that we support our president in whichever decisions that he feels is the best for the country and the party, so far as it does not go against best practices. So for me, all interest parties, I would crave the indulgence of all interest parties that when it comes to evidence, when it comes to things that need to be put on the table for us to know the veracity of the issues, let's put them on the issue and on the table. Let's test all the facts. If indeed SML is wrong, if it is indeed it is the other way around, so that we can come to a final conclusion where we are able to say that, okay, there was an audit, according to the audit, SML is right. There was an audit, according to the audit, SML is right. I believe that when we do things like that in a transparent manner, anybody who has to be the bigger person and say, oh, this is not happening well and face whatever consequences, people will be okay to do that. So let's not get to the point where it looks like sometimes let's not get to the point where it looks like a dog is being given a bad name just so it could be hanged. And let's not get to that point. Let's deal with the matters on the basis of facts. Let's deal with the matters on the basis of the evidence that is verifiable.
All right.
I believe that
right. Hello, George.
Eventually, the president who is vested with the powers of the state. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I lost you briefly. Go ahead.
Powers of the state. Yeah, I believe that the president who is vested with the powers of the state to make certain decisions for and on behalf of the people will do what is in the interest of the people.
Right.
And that's what I would say on the essay.
All right, thank you. Let's get into the papers. My two quick reactions to what you said. One, people may be political. It doesn't mean that elections should be politicized as well. Someone shouldn't play because the MPP, someone shouldn't play because the NDC, and we must get
Precisely
that out.
so.
And then on SML, my only concern, the parameters KPMG was given may be different from what Parliament is trying to probe and what other entities may want to see. So it doesn't mean if KPMG says this or that, that's the end of it, because it was a strict set of parameters, criteria they are using, which are not necessarily the parameters that some of us media people, for example, not all of them may be what we wanted to see or what we wanted to know about. So that's that. Let's get into the papers. Coup plot, 6 to die, 3 acquitted. So 6 persons, including 3 soldiers, have been sentenced to death by hanging for high treason by the Accra High Court for plotting to overthrow the government in 2019. Donya Kafui, a.k.a. Ezo, a blacksmith, and Bright Allen Deborah Ofosu, a fleet manager, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason and high treason, while Johannes Zikpi, a civilian employee of the Ghana Armed Forces, was found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason. The 3 soldiers, Warrant Officer 2, Esther San Dekwine, Lance Corporal Ali Solomon, and Corporal Sylvester Akanpewon, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason. In a unanimous decision yesterday, the 3-member panel of the High Court held that the 6 convicts conspired to destabilize the country and take over the government, while 2 of them, Kafui and Deborah Ofosu, took actual steps to operationalize the plot by manufacturing weapons and improvised explosive devices, that is IEDs. The court was presided over by Justice Ifiasewa Asaribotre, with Justices Hafisata Ameloboba and Stephen Opong, all justices of the Court of Appeal, sitting as additional High Court judges. However, 2 senior security officers and another soldier accused of being part of the plot were acquitted and discharged by the 3-member panel of the High Court. They are Colonel Samuel Kujo Gamili and Assistant Commissioner of Police Dr. Benjamin Agojo. They were found not guilty of abetment to high treason, while Corporal Seidu Abubakar was also found not guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason and high treason. I've had my thoughts on these matters for a long time, but the court has delivered its ruling. We'll stick to it, and supposedly bygones will be left to be those bygones. There's also, I'll just do these other stories and then you can come through with your quick reactions. Let's head to page 13. So, looted Asante relics returning home. After 150 years, 39 of the Asante royal regalia and objects looted by British troops during the Third Anglo-Asante War of 1874, popularly known as Sagrenti War or Sir Garnet Wolseley War, are returning to the Asante Hene in Kumasi this year. The first batch of 7 treasures is expected from the Fowler Museum of the University of California, Los Angeles, in February, while the second batch of 32 will arrive from 2 leading cultural institutions in the United Kingdom, the British Museum and the Victoria and Albert Museum, in April. Those from the V&A Museum include a gold peace pipe, 3 cast gold soul washers badges, 7 sections of sheet gold ornament, a silver straining spoon, a pair of silver anklets, a section of sheet gold ornament, and a cast gold soul washers badge. Then, 15 of the returning collections from Britain are from the British Museum, while 17 are from the V&A Museum. The collections, which range from the original sacred Mpomponsuo state sword dating back to 300 years to other ornaments of silver and gold, come under 2 separate agreements. And there are some partnerships that have resulted in this, and the Otumfuo is expected to speak in London on the back of this. The last story I'll do for your reaction: many women opting for C-section worrying, cesarean sections. And the Ghana Health Service has described as quite high the number of women opting for cesarean sections in the country as against the spontaneous vaginal delivery. It said from the 2022 Demographic and Health Survey report released last week, 1 in every 5 women that delivered in the country did so through CS, a figure which it explained was quite high compared to World Health Organization recommendations for the country. It said generally, at the country's population level, a 15% CS rate was acceptable, but that was not the case presently, as the country, per the 2022 GDHS report, had a nationwide cesarean section rate of 21%. That is more than 1 in 5 opting for C-sections. What do you think of this? Because I think also, George, there is a trend, and I've noticed it even among friends that I have. People, there seems to be some caution, concern about the normal vaginal delivery. So a lot of people seem to think, oh, rather than go through all that, some are scared naturally, and they say, look, I'll prefer a C-section. You can also talk about the Asante relics returning home. The BBC story said they were being loaned back. I don't know whether they will go back again, but and then the 6 who are to die by hanging. Any thoughts?
Okay. First, let me touch on the C-section. I think that is rather a growing concern and something that we should all be worried about. But what I would say for starters is that the C-section is not necessarily bad. It is something that is ordinarily recommended medically. So if a woman goes, and one of the conditions that a doctor may recommend a C-section is when a baby is overweight. So for example, if you have a first-time mother who is going to deliver a baby that is more than 3.8 kg, or let's say even 4.1 kg, who is like literally 2 babies put together, and the mother does not have the right pelvis, every surgeon or doctor is likely to recommend a C-section. But like you are saying now, there is this trend of people voluntarily opting for C-section. There is some myth around it where I have heard people say that the normal vaginal delivery affects some part of the sexuality of a woman. That's what I have heard. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how scientific it is, but that may be feeding into this new trend. So health professionals may want to go in there and speak to people so that they can know the right kind of education to give them to avoid some of these things. Now, on the matters of those who have been given a judgment on those who are to die, those who have been acquitted and all of that, I think these are matters of law. And so once the courts come out to rule, we can only accept them. But in the instance where people do not accept the verdict of the court, our constitution allows for judicial review. They can always explore their constitutional rights in Article 2 by invoking the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in Article 130. And if it pleases the apex courts, I'm sure they may have what they so desire. But if the apex court decides to also affirm the decision of the High Court, then it becomes finality to the matter. So for those who do not agree with the decision of the court, I'm sure appeals are always available and they can explore those options. The other thing I would also say is that on the other matter, which is the artifacts of Ashanti returning home, it's important that we look at it in the proper perspective. I am an Ashanti, and I'm a proud member of the Ashanti Professionals Club as well. And so anything Ashanti, I hold in high esteem, and I give it all the necessary reverence and recognition. This year, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Asante Hino 248 since he ascended the Golden Stool in 1999. And so it's important that these artifacts, like you rightly put it, that were looted by colonial masters return home. And then it would be a good thing to also, as it were, have a proper plan of getting some reparation and all.
Hello, George.
That's from the things that we lost in the past.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Go on.
Yes, so it will be a good time to go after some of the things that we lost and ensure that we have some of these very, very rare artifacts, because it's a way of boosting tourism. If we get these artifacts back home and then we get them installed in the right places, we can really get some good returns from our tourism industry. It's one of the areas that we must really boost as a country. If you look at what President Akufo-Addo has done with the year of return, and now even December is Ghana is a destination when it comes to December, it tells you that our tourism potential is really there, and we must go on to harness it and make some massive economic returns from same.
All right. Gilbert Senam Kwablakofi, I see you watching. You just started. Welcome aboard. That is live on our feed on Facebook. I just want to say, though, my aversion to the term you used, colonial masters, we tend to use that a lot. I hear it in government. They were colonizers. They were not mastering anybody. They were not colonial masters. They were colonizers. Colonists. This whole bit about colonial masters, it reinforces the idea of one race being better than another. So I'm just suggesting that.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that one.
Right.
I do.
The Ghanaian Times newspaper, attempted coup plot, 6 to hang for treason. ACP Agojo, 2 others freed. We've already looked at that. World Bank approves $300 million for Ghana to promote economic growth. Houghton sacked after Ghana AFCON group stage exit. And GRA targets 146 billion Ghana cedis in 2024. Let me see about this story, and then we can quickly move on. So the World Bank yesterday approved a $300 million facility to support Ghana to help strengthen the country's macroeconomic stability and promote economic growth. The facility under the Development Policy Operation for Ghana, a concessional loan to support the country's budget execution, is a contribution by the World Bank's International Development Association to help Ghana's economic recovery and enhance inclusive growth. This brings to $900 million the amount the IMF and the World Bank approved for Ghana in less than a week to support the country's economic recovery and growth. Of course, not everyone is excited about it. Franklin Kujo of Imani Africa has said the money the IMF and the World Bank are giving, they should monitor its spending, especially in an electoral year with the MPP, because it's like giving whiskey and car keys to young boys. And then Qatar Charity provides Bulenga residents with potable water. What do you make of this? Very quickly, I want us to wrap with the Daily Guide newspaper as well. Any quick thoughts, if any?
Okay, my brother. I think that as for people having opinions, it is normal in our body politics, and for me, I respect everybody's opinion. Franklin Kujo can have his opinions, and what I find disappointing is that the IMF support was not sought in the election year. The IMF support was not sought because there is an election. I'm sure anybody who has paid the necessary attention to these issues knows the reason why the IMF support was sought. It was intended to enhance Ghana's economic recovery post the devastating effect of the combined effect of COVID-19 and Russian-Ukraine war. And so we've come from a place. We spent several months to secure this support way ahead of the election year. And so if at this point we have to make it look like we are getting the support because of an election, it's rather unfortunate. But then again, the IMF has its own parameters. It has its own monitoring systems. It has its ways of doing its things. And so the government of Ghana, the NPP-led administration, the Kufuor-led administration cannot pick IMF support and channel it into political party financing. It can never be done. And so I'm surprised that things like this are coming from people who are revered when it comes to public policy and what have you. So for me, I think that Franklin, our good brother, can do better with some of these comments. It's not helpful and it's not good for the economy. When these things happen, they go a long way to hurt the economy, especially on the international markets when it comes to getting the necessary support, getting foreign direct investment. Because in the end, anybody wanting to bring his money home would be thinking of the fact that it's an election year if I take my money to Ghana. And one of the people who speaks on public policy has said that the government will take it and use it for political party financing.
But will you blame them? Will you blame them when people in government will not even keep their money in the banks? They are telling us to support the economy, keep it in the banks. They themselves are not keeping their money in the banks. Will you blame them?
My brother, I think that let's not run through the issues together. There's this specific issue that we are dealing with. When it comes to issues of someone who has kept his money in the bank, I think it's solely a matter that is before the law, and then the special prosecutor is following it. That is not the reason why we want to say that anybody should just also say things that hurt the economy in the long run.
No, I'm not supporting that. I'm not saying that people should say things, but if people truly believe that, and if there's a reflection, especially from people who are in government, would you say those people are wrong?
What I'm saying is that let's not mix the issues. There's a matter of IMF. Its support is coming in. What is the correlation between the IMF support we are receiving and the issue that the special prosecutor is prosecuting? There is no correlation between the two. One is before the special prosecutor that's being treated as a criminal matter. The other is entirely an economic
I think you're missing. You're completely missing my point.
I'm saying,
it's not about the issue before the OSP. I'm saying the signal. The signal it sends. Optics.
I get your argument. I get your argument. What I am rather saying is that we are at a point where we are trying to enhance our economic recovery, and so the comments that we say, the things that we get onto the international markets should be things that would get us to get in more foreign direct investment. So, for example, if we are talking about the opportunities that are here in Ghana, we'd have people come in to explore those opportunities. But if we are rather speculating about unverifiable and things that cannot even happen with the regular procedures, then we are rather sucking away foreign direct investment. If I want to bring my money to Ghana and I find on the news that one of the credible public policy institutions is saying that if IMF's money comes to Ghana, there's a likelihood that the government will take it and use it for political party activities. This is something that will hurt the economy. This is something that will discourage investments in Ghana. And if we have a teaming youth ready out there, ready to get gainful employment, and we are doing all the government can to bring in the necessary resources, get people to come in, establish businesses, and we have some of these comments, it hurts not just the government, it hurts the average Ghanaian as well. So that's why I'm saying that we should discourage some of these comments and let's not inflame them. It does not help anybody.
All right, George.
That's all I want to say.
Let's wrap here. I'll give you a little time to maybe send a message to your delegates. But before I get there, the Daily Guide newspaper, Asabi calls for probe into Mills's death. Stephen Asamoah Boateng, a.k.a. Asabi, he is Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. I thought Dr. Samuel Mahama had said two things. One, that the purported family that had gone to see President Akufo-Addo was not a delegation from the family. I don't know what is being said about that. And two, that the autopsy report they had secured as a family had been secured from the AMA, or is it the 37 Military Hospital, and that both these entities have the autopsy report. So I don't know what he means by probe into Mills's death further when there's purportedly an autopsy report. But that's the major story there in the Daily Guide newspaper, because all the other stories we've looked at. And then there's also Hajj season begins. Let me quickly do this, and then let me let you first. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. What is your message to your delegates ahead of the parliamentary primaries? George.
Okay. So on 27th of January, which is just this Saturday, we go to the polls. My message to the delegates is simple. A vote for George Sapon is a vote for competence. A vote for George Sapon is a vote for humility in service. A vote for George Sapon is a vote for a youth mobilizer who can enhance the electoral fortunes of the MPP in the Efija-Kwabre South constituency, which will go on to help the overall electoral tally of the MPP nationally. You know, the Ashanti region is the heart of the MPP. So at this point in time, we need people who can mobilize the votes. We need people who can get us all the votes out there to enhance our electoral fortune, such that by December 7th, by close of polls, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia would break the 8 for us, and we will also increase our parliamentary seats. I am ready to do that. I am willing to do that. I am capable to do that, and I have shown over the years that I have what it takes. I can rise to the occasion. I'm sensitive to the plight of the people, and when the contest moves, I'll show up for the party as I've always done. I'm number 1 on the ballot, and I call on all my delegates who have the power to decide in these matters to endorse me massively, take me to Parliament, and I'll serve them with diligence.
George, thank you so much for joining us this morning. George Sapon is the MPP's parliamentary candidate hopeful for Efija-Kwabre South. He is hoping to get the nod from the delegates. Before we go, this message coming through from Linda Doreen Ashong. She says, a happy new year and blessed 85th birthday to Mrs. Christiana Otibo, a.k.a. Mama Chris, from your children, grandchildren, siblings, nieces, and nephews. We love you. And so that is to Mrs. Christiana Otibo. You are 85 today. Then there's also this one coming through from, this one says, happy birthday, Joycelyn J. Boateng of Airport MTTD. On this special day, I celebrate not just an addition of another year in your life, but the incredible person you are. Here's to another year of love, laughter, and creating beautiful memories together. Cheers to you, Sewa. That comes through from our very own Samuel Mbura, sending in that message. And once more, of course, a very happy birthday to my sugar mummy, my mother, Susie Akakbo. You are 69 today. May God bless you infinitely. This segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra. It's Pentex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronom Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. The Stakrade Anaji State Tema Community 22. Techiman Hanswe and Siamanzima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review. Up next, sports.
The striking groups continued their demands for better working conditions and payment of their Tier 2 pensions. The Legon branch of the Teachers and Educational Workers Union TEWU and the Senior Staff Association say they will soon close all lecture halls of the university, which will affect students currently writing exams.
All the kids, they are not kids, students of University of Ghana. Yes, their parents, wherever that they work, they also have a condition of service. If something is going on wrong there, definitely they will also lay their tools. This is my working environment. I hold a condition of service. This is what is supposed to be done. There are managers in place. If the managers are tampering with the condition of service, we will draw our services. And that is it. No exams will go on. All the examination halls will be locked up. All the necessary tools that will be used for the examination will be locked up. Yes.
But some lecture halls have already been shut down, forcing classes of some first-year students either be cancelled or moved online. Here's a student who spoke to us in camera.
For the
lecture halls, some are working currently and most of them have also been closed. So for instance, there's a lecture hall at JQB that they have lectures there. Some have been closed and some are working. The level 100, for instance, I talked to a lady who is in level 100 who I asked whether she went to class yesterday, and she informed me that when she went to class, they were told that the class has been cancelled purposely because of the strike. We are having a congregation for exam. We are a congregation for graduation, and some were going for their gowns, and they were told that the driver to bring the gowns is on strike. The driver to bring the gowns is on strike. So I just imagine. So sad things in there, just something that you just have to just ignore and just accept the facts.
The striking groups would later have a standoff with the police, leading to one of them being arrested.
You are fighting with us. You are fighting University of Ghana. You are fighting with the university staff.
The striking groups say they remain resolute in their demands and will use all legal means to ensure their concerns are addressed.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories now. As you can see right behind me, strikes, industrial actions. Over the last few weeks, it has been threats of strikes, and more threats of strikes. The senior staff associations, universities of Ghana have already embarked on that, the two-pronged bit. The Senior Staff Association and then the Federation, they have already started an industrial action. Recently, we've heard from TEU as well on that same road. And guess what? The TUC, the Trades Union Congress, also has threatened on the back of a 15% hike in electricity tariffs based on VAT. They are also saying you go down that road and we shall also have something to say about that via a strike. But where do we go from here? What do we do in respect of that situation? We have our guests joining us to share their thoughts. Senor Yapei is a labor consultant and HR specialist. He joins the conversation. We also have Mark Cranche, General Secretary of TEU. We'll be engaging him shortly. Mr. Yapei, a very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, Ben.
Right. What do you make of the recent trend? It's just the start of the year. In fact, the very first month, and we're seeing all of these actions when it comes to laying down tools and the threat of saying. Now, you look at the numbers, Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, together with the Federation. That's huge. Then you look at TEU coming on board, the teachers as well, and now the TUC, a much bigger body. What do you make of this trend?
Well, good morning, Ben, and your listeners. I think you've given a very fair background of the situation, which can be described as worrying and also chaotic. And I think it is because of two reasons. First, that we are in an election here, and normally, if you check the trend of the industrial actions, you realize that in election years, strike actions always rise, the number rises. Mm-hmm. It is because, workers normally believe that they are running out of time to have issues that they might have been discussing on the table for a couple of years settled before, election comes and then the current government leaves power. And also because of the economic times that we are in and the difficulties that every citizen seems to be facing. And I believe the unions are also facing these kinds of economic hardships, and their members. So I think that is why we are here. And I think that it is not the right place to be at all.
It's not the right place to be. A quick question. Do you feel all of this could have been forestalled? the last time, for example, and UTAG is not, I mean, they have not embarked on such, an action yet, but UTAG and TUTAG, for example, have threatened as well to lay down their tools. The other day I was having a conversation with the national president. When you look at all of these groupings, education and general workers in the system, do you feel there is something that should have been done that has not been done, for which reason we've ended up here? Because you have the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, you have the Labor Commission, you have the Ministry for Employment and Labor Relations, but is it that they simply do not get things right every electoral year or ahead of every electoral year? Just what is your thinking on that?
Well, you see that these actions are quite synchronized. So it's a number of actions happening at the same time. Then that means that the issues in discussion or under contention or in contention are issues that have been there for a while, at least for maybe beyond 18 months, 24 months. There's been discussions on the table. So when discussions on the table delay and there is no movement, what we call a deadlock, then these actions will happen to force the other party's hand to act. And so I would just say that this would be happening because of the expectations of the employees not being met to this point, or the inaction of the other party, that is from the government side, not doing what the unions have been asking. And that is why we will reach this deadlock where it will now, move into the issue of industrial action. And what should have been done? Well, the offer on the table and the contention of each party is as good as their ability to agree on a settlement. And where there is no settlement, then each would start looking at either technical, tactical, and legal strategies available to them to be able to get the other party to do their bidding. So yes, it has to be settled one way or the other, and I hope that this message that has been strongly sent by the unions will have the government side call them and sit and try to actually resolve the problems once and for all.
Well, if you look at UTAG and TUTAG, for example, such talk has not culminated in what they would have expected. For example, the market, peggings that they have spoken of in the past. But that's another issue. When you look at all of these together, though we are technically not talking about UTAG and TUTAG, but their issues remain. So I want to rope them in. If you look at UTAG, TUTAG, if you look at the Senior Staff Association and the Federation, if you look at TEU, if you look at the TUC, what would be your holistic, global assessment of labor right now? Yes, you've picked apart some of the issues about it's an electoral year. Sometimes they would also want to capitalize and sneak in what they can before another administration starts because it could be difficult. But how would you assess labor right now? Are they strong? Are they in a good place? Are they overdoing it? Are they merely taking advantage of the times? What would your reaction be to that?
I think that labor has always been strong and will always be strong. I even think, some of us who are process watchers in the industry even think that over the few years past, labor has not been too strong. And so it is interesting to see that labor is rising at this moment. There have been so many triggers in the past few years that could have caused labor, for example, to rise. But somehow I think that there was very good dialogue on the table, and hence labor was contained, labor was content, happy, maybe not too happy, but at least content with the situation until now. So I'll say that the labor front may be looking very agitated currently, but it's been fairly stable, and labor can be rated as having done extremely well in understanding and cooperating and contending with the actions of the government side, especially regarding issues of taxation and also especially issues of pensions, because the pensions issue, I remember the Tier 2 issues started as far back as 2018 when the union started questioning government to make due on the payment of the Tier 2 pension fund and so on and so forth. So I think I would rate Labour quite high, but we are at a place where now we need to try and resolve the issues instead of letting it go on and then finally affecting, the educational system, which is struggling at the moment as well. So I think that I would not fault Labour too much. Maybe they've been pushed so hard into a corner, and when you push unions too far, certainly you would get a reaction at some point.
All right. And how would you rate government strategy in dealing with these labor issues in all of this? You can take them apart one by one, or you can put them together. How would you rate government's positioning, strategy in dealing with all of this?
So, then if you ask me, I think that I would say that especially the Minister for Labour has done so well over the 2 terms of the present administration. He's kept the Labour front quite stable until now. And it is all because I know that it's all because there's been a lot of consultation going on at the background, and especially at the tripartite level, a committee level, where we've seen a lot of work done between the Labour stakeholders. Unfortunately, the current situation started really from the taxation policy for 2024, and that started with TUC talking. And this is what happens in the industry. Once the leadership takes a position and starts agitating, then all the other arms of Labour get the vim, if we could call it that way. It gets the motivation to also hit back and go stronger on what they've been demanding. And again, remember that if any other arm wishes to take any action, normally the leadership, which is the TUC, will try to come in and calm things down and control the situation. But when it is the leadership that now rises up, then everybody rises up with their own issues, then forming a pocket of a giant judicial action that then comes hard, on the government side. So for now, I think that government strategies which have worked regarding, deep consultation on and off the table must start in earnest. And somehow government has to convince the union side about what they want to do and maybe meet them halfway somehow and get this thing settled. Other than that, I do not see the unions backing down easily. You'll find that the strongest and the most, I don't want to use the word intransigent in a negative way, but let me call it resilient. The most resilient unions have always been the teacher unions. And so when it is them that are agitating, it is an issue to work because they don't back down easily. Yeah.
Let me quickly bring in this bit. So in reaction to that, before I move on to my other guests, what should government be doing in the wake of these labor threats? Or is government doing enough?
I'm sure by now government is trying to engage the unions and their leadership in resolving the issues or giving some assurance. So those meetings have to go on in earnest. And maybe the parties may also need certain additional resources in terms of using consultants, using senior citizens, trying to sit down around the table and getting some form of agreement to end this. Because if it's the same faces that have been sitting around the table and arguing, still are the ones that are expected to go and sit and talk again, it will not work. So we need maybe new faces, additional resources, and also a bit of people with higher clout, if I should put it that way, coming in and trying to assuage the impressions on the union, so the union leadership, so that they can see some reason, get some assurances, and then they can call off the strike for the time being while the deliberations continue. What I would advise, however, is that we may not want to attack this from a blaming point of view, that these people are breaking the law, they don't have the right to do this. We have gone past right currently, because you will find that whatever is happening because people believe they have the right so to be. And therefore, I think that dialogue should be the better way to go.
All right. Let me bring in TEWU's General Secretary. I'm talking about Mark Crunchy. He also joins the conversation. The Teachers and Educational Workers Union, they have joined the Senior Staff Association of Ghana and the Federation in an industrial action. Mr. Crunchy, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation, and thank you for holding. You've heard the initial reactions that I've got from Mr. Ajabing, but I'd like to find out from you, while we already know, I'd like to know, why exactly did TEWU find it necessary to join the Senior Staff Association of Ghana in this industrial action?
Thank you very much, and let me say hi to your cherished listeners. TEWU found it necessary to join this very strike action because the subject of the consideration involves not only senior staff, but more importantly, the junior staff. And for that
Mr. Crunchy, if you could just speak a little louder. I'm struggling to hear you, sir.
Sorry, I'm saying that we found it necessary. Is it better now?
Yes, I think it's fine.
Okay, we found it necessary to join the strike action because the subject matter under consideration does not only affect the senior staff. More importantly, the TEWU members who are junior staff of the various universities. And so the issues are one, our overtime issues, which management, for that matter, the regulator, GTEC, was trying to depart from what is contained in our conditions of service, which has been negotiated first. And then the second one has to do with our Tier 2 pension fund that Gafo is not releasing for our schemes to do the proper assessment. So these matters affect virtually everybody on campus, including TEWU members. That is why we felt it necessary. We will not allow just the senior staff to fight this, but we have to join it so that at the end of the day, our members would also, their needs are taken care of.
Your actions are crippling some of these institutions. I've seen some members, I do not know whether yours are included, even at the frontage of the University of Ghana, the Okponglo entrance, preventing people from entering and all of that. I mean, it's bringing certain aspects of work in these institutions to a standstill. I don't know how you feel about that and what the reactions have been, but how also, even as you answer that, what would you say has been the reaction of government, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the Labour Commission, the Employment and Labour Relations Ministry, to all of this? Has it been apt?
So it's unfortunate that we have to get to this level and where work has to be disrupted. The University of Ghana, for instance, is going through graduation ceremony, and yet we want to get our members off work. And this is actually affecting the work of the university. It is unfortunate, but we also cannot sit and say that because work has to go on, what our needs are will not be taken care of. And so we are only fighting for what is legitimately ours. In the case of response from government, I would say, well, some response has come up. Yesterday, for instance, the National Labour Commission summoned us and gave certain directions as to what has to be done. Minister of Finance has written that we should come for a discussion on the 1st of February to discuss these pensions and other things. GTEC, who is the regulator of public universities, have also come up to say that they are reversing a directive they issued earlier on overtime to our various managements to stay action, respect what is in the conditions of service until further discussions are held. So I would say, well, the responses have been positive, except that we have not concluded anything yet, and therefore we cannot unilaterally ask that our members go back to work. We have to meet them and then report on the outcome of yesterday's meeting with Labour Commission and the other subsequent meetings. We have to report to our members.
Right. Please hold for me. I'll come back to you briefly and to Mr. Ajabing as well. We also have joining the conversation the Vice President of the Trades Union Congress. I'm talking about Mr. Ken Kodia. Mr. Kodia, very good morning to you. Mr. Kodia,
good
please.
Morning.
Right. It's good to have you join the conversation. Now, even as we talk about BUTAG, TUTAG, we talk about TEU, the Senior Staff Association, then we're hit with the Trades Union Congress, large membership. And you are also threatening on a different angle. That is the 15% VAT to be slapped on electricity tariffs. Why now?
All right. Thank you very much. Let me say I'm the Vice Chair of the Trades Union Congress. The earlier unions you mentioned, the TEU and so on and so forth, are all part of the Trades Union Congress.
Right.
Why now? Because we can't sit down and allow this to happen before we come to react. It's important that we let the government know that this is a no-no for workers. And the earlier they decide on the right measure, the better. Let me add to this. TUC and its affiliated unions have, from the beginning, kicked against IMF coming into this country. In fact, history has shown us that any time IMF enters this country, workers are the group that are worst hit, and the poor in general, because all they bring on is to make things difficult for the ordinary Ghanaian. And so we are not surprised that this has come up at this time and is referenced to an IMF conditionality. So why now? Because this is the time. We must not allow this to happen before we come trying to correct it. And we are very resolved and determined to do anything possible to resist this imposition on the poor worker.
Now, you speak of IMF conditionalities, but the IMF conditionalities do not necessarily specify where or how we'll go about this. They specify that some actions ought to be taken to regulate certain sectors. But this and the quantum being slapped on it is the work of government. So you cannot necessarily blame the IMF. The IMF didn't tell us to slap 15% VAT on this. So how then do you react to government, the finance ministry in all of this?
Okay. Let me say that you can put this squarely on the IMF. If you have read the letter issued by the Minister of Finance, it was quite explicit. This 15% VAT has been on our books since 2013. So how come no other government felt the need to implement this until now? So let's not pretend around it. These are part of the measures government must do to assure IMF that it can raise the needed revenue to support the loans we are taking.
Yes, but Mr. Kranche, what you're saying corroborates what I am saying. I'm saying that, like, we are all fully aware, it has been on the books since, in fact, the past administration. It hadn't been implemented, yes. Okay? And even if you look at the timelines, we were not necessarily in the grips of an IMF program at the time. Then we come to this, period where now, though we had been in an IMF program at the tail end of that administration, gone out of it, we are back here. But I'm saying that whether IMF program or not, while the IMF may have its stipulations on revenue generation and how to go about it, they wouldn't come and force your hand and say, impose 15% on this. So whether it is because we're in a program or not, where do you lay the blame? Where do you lay the blame? And how do we address the issue? That's what I'm asking.
Right. The blame, obviously, is on all of us. It's on the government trying to use this medium to generate the needed revenue where it could have looked elsewhere or looked at other alternatives to raise this income. Also, it's on all of us. Also, if we keep quiet as citizens, things like this would never stop hitting us. But let me say, and very clearly, that is this the only way to raise the needed revenue that governments want? Have you looked around this country?
Mr. Kodia, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Kodia.
You and I, the VAT.
All right, Mr. Kodia, we're losing you. The feed is not so good, Mr. Kodia, if you can hear me. So we're going to try to reconnect with you, see whether we can make it better or alternatively reach you on phone. Either way, but just stay with us with your train of thought. Of course, I heard a bit of what you were saying about the VAT and its imposition. I wanted to find out from him what all of this meant to workers within the TUC, because like he rightly mentioned, all the other groupings that we're speaking of, the U-tags and the TU-tags and the TEUs and the rest, still are members of the TUC as well, as much as I know. So it appears it is a two-pronged industrial action then, because on the one end, some of the members, which we've already mentioned, are up in arms, complaining about different things. UTAG about market premiums and others. Then you have the TEUs and the rest complaining about tier 2 and other concerns. And then you have the umbrella body, the TUC, also complaining about the 15% VAT that has been threatened to be imposed on electricity tariffs. So you see that it's a conglomerate of issues. It's a huge problem we're dealing with right now. But before we get Mr. Kodria back on the line, and unless you can hear me, Mr. Kodria, can you hear me? All right, we're going to try to reach him on phone. Let me come to Mr. Kranche, General Secretary of TEU. When you look at everything that is happening, you would see that there is a thread running through of unhappiness on different fronts. But oftentimes the NLC would complain about labor breaching procedure here and there. As far as you are concerned, it's a question I would have posed to Senor, but since you are still with us, why do you think it is so, and what do you think has been done to avoid this phenomenon? Or they just sit and wait till it happens and then they complain?
Yeah, that's the sad aspect of this whole thing. before senior staff embarked on the industrial action in the 17th of January, notices were served in December to the effect that if nothing was done, no engagement is done about these overtime issues and tier 2 pensions funds, we will embark on an industrial action. No attempt was made to engage us. And then we start the action. It is now that government is running health, etc., inviting us to meetings here and there. It gives an indication that as if the concerns of workers don't matter. And we are in this country where some are enjoying, others are not. But we are not complaining. We think that what is due us must be given to us. So when workers are agitating, my vision is that government should at least listen to the concerns that workers are raising.
You feel they don't listen enough?
They don't listen enough. Otherwise, these agitations and these actions wouldn't have happened. We could have averted this situation.
Hold for me. Let me bring Mr. Kodia back. Mr. Kodia, can you hear me now?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Right. Mr. Ken Kodia is vice chair of the TUC, vice chair of the TUC. So looking at how far we have come and this threat, is this something that you actually mean to carry out if this 1 week runs out? You've given government an ultimatum, right?
Yes, we have. And I can assure you that we will shut down every institution where our members are if government fails to listen to us. Is this the only medium government can raise funds or revenue to cushion its budget or assure IMF that it has what it takes to raise money? You and I pay VAT currently. We buy from the shops, we pay hotel bills, restaurant bills. Find out how much of that comes back to the government. Also find out how many MMDAs are owing GRA with withholding taxes. How many people in this country, and let me focus even on the political class, we see them all the time. Some of them work with you, they leave their employment, they become politicians, and they have so much to spend on campaign. Has somebody asked them what income are they earning and what taxes are they paying? So is it the poor worker who must always bear this hit? Also because this is the easiest way to collect the hanging fruit. But is that the right way to promote social development? So for us, we are very determined that we will not allow this to happen, not only because it would affect the poor worker, but it's just not right.
Right.
It is just not right.
Mr. Kodia, remind us again, how strong is your membership? How large is your membership?
Oh, I can tell you that just the Public Service Workers Union, just one of the 22 unions, which has civil aviation, airport company, Widco, VRA, just a few, just one union has 72. It's a massive agenda, and TUC need not only even strike, just one of its members to strike, and this country is down on its knees.
You know the implications of that for the same economy. For the same economy we're trying to boost. You know the implications of that, right?
But is it that in our quest to develop, we must allow the wrong things to happen to us? Somebody must speak and defend the poor worker. So that we all sit down on the round table and see which path is workable and in the best interest of the same Ghanaian leaders are trying to promote their socio-economic well-being.
And I'll pose this question to both of you. Now, when I sit here, I have to look at every aspect of a conversation we're having. Me, nowadays, even before this VAT is added, when you purchase electricity, for those of us on prepaid meters, it is mind-boggling. You purchase 200 cedis, 500 cedis, 300 cedis, and it is gone before you can even blink an eye. And I look at what equipment I use, and I ask myself, how are others coping, right? So it's not that some of us don't feel what you're feeling. And VAT has not even been slapped on yet, which would mean that once it's slapped on, that's another, it's a whole different caboodle. But you do realize as well that if you push for government to move away from here, the 15% on VAT, they will definitely find somewhere else, and then we'll repeat the cycle of industrial actions. At least that is what we know. What is your understanding of that? How do you react to it? Because it appears you push them from one angle, they'll find another angle anyway.
Okay, let me say that there are so many other angles government can address this from, and the leakages in the system is the first place we point them to. Let's all see how we can block the leakages and get the same revenue that we would have gotten if we had slapped this 50% on the poor workers. So yes, there are so many options, and that is why government should have consulted, or will sit down and see which of the paths we need to take. So whatever path that we will have to take if we are able to succeed on this agenda should be the one that will not add more burden to the poor workers. Like you just described, if your ECG prepaid gets finished very early, the implication is that you need extra money to be buying more. And the other, once you need more money, then your salary is affected. You can't go to your employer and say, employer, now I am buying so much prepaid, so into my salary. So you squeeze your family. So options, yes, there are options, but we must all sit down and look at which option would be easier for all of us, yet will not bring any hardship to the ordinary Ghanaian.
For you, Mr. Kujo, just hold for me. Let me bring in Mr. Crunch here as well. For you, from where you sit,
Yes.
with TEU, what do you think? Mr. Kujo is suggesting deal with the wastage first, corruption and all of that. But that is also a process, and we're in the grips of an IMF program, and we have to keep the economy going. As we keep getting money, there are restrictions and regulations we must go by. Which other areas do you agree with him on wastage, and which other areas do you feel government can address without necessarily burdening the people?
In fact, we hit the nail right on the head. We need to do a holistic review of our revenue, how we get it. It should not always be the case that because the worker would have to receive salary and taxes have to be imposed, let us do this, let us do that, let us do that. That is not the best way to go. We in the TUC, and for that matter, organized labor, think that yes, let's bring all stakeholders to the table, let's brainstorm and find the best way that we can do to increase revenue. We mentioned leakage. How can we block out these leakages so that it returns into our revenue and get revenue shock? There are so many ways we can, and workers are ready to dialogue with government and get the best way possible. But surely, this is not an empty threat. If government will not listen and government will continue, then we're going to have a series of these strike actions and demonstrations. We think that there is a need for us to sit around the table. There is a need for us to all look at the issues holistically and see the best way of resolving it rather than using it through taxes.
Right. So let's look at this then. When you look at labor and how things have been handled so far, it also appears that while government oftentimes may be slow, lethargic in dealing with your situations, you also tend to adopt an entrenched position, which some would say does not help matters. We can blame government all the way, but what blame do you think Labour should bear in all of this? Or is it that Labour is sacrosanct? It has its hands clean on these matters? Mr. Kranchi, are you with me? Mr. Kodria?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
It appears we don't have Mr. Kranchi. Would you like to address that situation?
No, I'm online. Hello.
Mr. Kranchi, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I was trying to... That question was actually meant for you. Did you get the question?
Yes, I got the question. And I'm saying that it is never the case that Labour takes entrenched position.
Okay.
We are always ready for dialogue. We are always ready to discuss and have a middle ground. But to dump everything on us and then always try to play on the weaknesses of Labour, we will not sit down for it as leaders. And that is why we are saying that for us, we will continue to fight for the poor worker and ensure that what is due to ordinary guys, they get it and get it right.
Mm. For you, Mr. Kodria, what do you think? Do you think your stance is completely fair on the back of what you are pushing for? Or do you think that sometimes you should be more malleable in dealing with government on these matters?
Well, the definition for malleable for us is what fits in this context. If government would adopt the approach to consult for a broader discussion before it comes up with some of these decisions, it will save us all this trouble. There's a platform created by law that engenders government and stakeholders like the Trade Union Congress to deliberate on issues like this before decisions are raised. But as long as government will ignore that provision and always decide unilaterally to do things like this, then obviously we will respond. And we can only respond when we have information that this is what is going to be done or when it happens. But let me take you back a little. That we must go through the processes. You mentioned that processes might take time before we get the needed revenue for the government. But systems and structures to success are built by processes. Let's begin to put the process mechanism in place to establish structures and systems to enhance revenue. Otherwise, this reactional measures, looking at which area we can tax that can affect everyone and get the result, would always bring this type of response. So as far as we are concerned, we think that we are not laid back until the minister confirmed on paper that this is what it intends to do. We couldn't have reacted.
Mr. Kodria, have you had any interactions with government since you adopted this stance, giving the ultimatum and all of that? Have you heard from whether the Labour Commission, the ministry, have you heard from any such outfit on this concern of yours?
Not that I'm aware of. We are yet to receive any official letter or comment from the Ministry of Finance or the Labour Department.
Right, of course, you're right. That is technically not a purely labor issue. It has to do with the Finance Ministry and, IMF program. But what does that communicate to you? How many days has it been?
Say again?
How many days has it been now since this ultimatum?
It's been Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, Thursday.
Okay, so 3 days. And
yes.
You've put this ultimatum out. You have a huge membership, and you've not heard any word from the Finance Ministry. How does that make you feel?
It's boiling our blood. We are getting excited. We are beginning to look for the red bands. And for a long time, members have not had the opportunity to demonstrate their anger and the frustration. And maybe this will be the avenue for them to vent out and let the whole world know that this is a no-no for the poor workers in this country.
So, I mean, for you, it's an either-or situation. It's either they take off the 15% planned increment on electricity tariffs via VAT, or you demonstrate, or you lay down your tools, right?
Yes, and we are also prepared to give government the alternative. I mean, sit down and let government know our proposal for the alternative in raising this. We recognize that this money must be raised. So we are also willing to offer that support and in this regard.
Okay. Before I come to you for your final words, let me go to Mr. Korankye as well. What do you make of the fact that up to this point, even with the TUC, your umbrella body, there's no response? What does that say about the responsiveness of government and its institutions in dealing with these pockets of problems when they arise?
And that is what I mentioned earlier, that sometimes you sound notices and they don't seem to care until action is taken. So we are counting the days. I am sure people in government, politicians, are busy campaigning for their re-elections and all that. Come today. So this our noise, put it in quotes, doesn't seem to touch them. But they will wait for us to now hit the road before they will please call us meetings and want the world to think that we are insensitive. We have sounded the caution. We are waiting for their reaction. And like my senior comrade said, we are waiting and willing to engage. So if they would be minded, call us to the table for engagement, we will. But like they are saying, they will always want to wait and see whether we will do anything at all. But trust me, these are not empty threats. We will carry it to the way.
Mr. Korankye, what will be your final words for us before I end with Mr. Kudia? Final words. What can we expect from
all our members to wait patiently for our leaders as we go through these processes?
Right.
And we also want to advise government that the earlier they act on these things, the better it is for all of us.
So right now your strike is indefinite, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Korankye, for joining the conversation. Mr. Kudia, you have the final word. TUC Vice Chair.
Our silence wish would be that government will listen, and also government will stop this type of bringing out policies. We want government to respect the law and engage as the law requires to avoid some of these things. But as long as it decides to go on this tangent, then we will not also stop reacting. IMF has come, we accept it, but anything that they intend to achieve through their policies should not come to make the ordinary Ghanaians worse off. After all, governance is to enhance our living conditions and our economic benefits. It shouldn't reverse it. So anything in this policy or any decision from government that would seek to make the poor worker or Ghanaian worse off, Labour will resist and point government to other alternatives where such could be achieved. And I must add that we are very poised in our quest to strike and bring this country to a halt. Also, government listens.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. We had, at a point, Senyo M. Ajabing, Labour consultant and HR specialist. He joined the conversation for the initial phase. Then we also had Mark Korankye, General Secretary of TEU, and, of course, Vice Chair of the TUC, Mr. Ken Kudia. Do stay with us, because when we return from the break, there's a whole lot. We're going to be talking health matters and politics. We still have a conversation to come focused on child malnutrition and obesity. We'll be having a conversation on that with the Pediatric Society of Ghana. We also have a conversation coming up later. Of course, it's 2 days. It's Saturday, the primaries of the new Patriotic Party, the parliamentary primaries, and we'll be getting into that as well. All of that action still to come on the AM show. We'll be back.
Welcome back on the AM show. It's time now for us to have a conversation on child malnutrition. Now, I know the World Health Organization says that malnutrition is the single most important health risk to the world health. And to join us in the studio today to have a conversation on pediatric malnutrition is Dr. Hilda Mantebia Boy, who is a pediatrician at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. She's also the president of Pediatric Society of Ghana. She's here to help us get in-depth analysis and insights into malnutrition when it comes to children. Welcome to the AM show. You're looking beautiful this morning.
Thank you, Sweetie. You're looking great
Thank you. So let's set the pace for the conversation with some simple definitions so that everyone can follow through. What is nutrition, malnutrition, and then undernutrition? Because I chanced on some documents, and these are the key terms that we'll be using in the course of the conversation.
All right. When we talk about nutrition, basically, it is the food that people are eating to stay healthy, to grow and stay healthy and be able to perform the functions that the body needs to function to grow. And if we talk about malnutrition, we are talking the prefix mal is bad. So malnutrition, bad nutrition. And under bad nutrition, you could have overnutrition or undernutrition, where the overnutrition is you're too big or you're growing too big. So that's the overweight, obesity. Those are under the overnutrition. Then the undernutrition looks at people who are not growing well enough or not gaining weight enough. Okay. So basically, there's also micronutrient deficiency, like the vitamins and minerals that are lacking. So micronutrient deficiency is also a form of malnutrition.
So basically, the demand and supply between for energy and nutrition that the body needs and what we give it.
Exactly.
Good. So now that we have that out of the way, why is malnutrition a concern? Why does the Ghana Pediatric Society want to shed light on malnutrition?
We as a society are a national body that is interested in the health and well-being of children in Ghana. And when anybody gives birth or has a baby, what they want to do is to give their baby or their child their best. Come 50 years, come 80 years, 100 years, if the person lives to that age, everybody hopes that that person will be performing at the highest that they can perform. Yes. And we are interested in the development of Ghana. It's the children who are going to grow and who are going to take over.
Leaders.
Yes, they are the future leaders. So we have to give them whatever they need to be able to grow. In the advanced countries, a number of these things were prioritized many years ago. And that is why we see what we see in their leadership, in the quality of people that they have, in the development of the nations. That is why we see that. And all these things are intentional. Like, it doesn't just happen. People need to think about it. They need to plan it. And we are saying that 50 years from now, we want Ghana to be up there. And we can't be Ghana beyond aid if our children are not given the right start to be able to perform well. In their brain, mentally, they should be able to perform well, think well. Everybody has to be productive to be able to get us there, and we need to start now. That is why we are interested in doing this now.
I think that also explains why the World Health Organization is saying that nutrition is a single, most important health risk to global health, because it cuts across your mental health, your physical well-being, Right. So you mentioned Ghana. What exactly is the Ghana story as it stands now? What are the statistics? Where do we stand in terms of pediatric nutrition?
It's quite broad, and I'm hoping that Echo can help us. But so averagely, we are looking at about 50%. So we looked at the Ghana Demographic Health Survey. There are areas where you have over 50% of children being anemic, meaning that their HBs are low. HB below 11 gram per DL, that is low, and that has an effect on their intelligence, their ability to even function. So that's a problem. If you want the IQ or the intelligence of the children to be high, then their HBs have to be at good levels. It can affect their development, their ability to understand things, even the potential to fight with other children will increase if they are malnourished, or their chances or risk of fighting with other children, because they just don't understand the things that they should understand. So that is one. Now, the undernutrition, so those who are not gaining weight adequately, is also a problem. If you go to some of the villages or some of the areas where the socio-economic status of the parents is low, you may find that many of the children there are not gaining weight as they are supposed to. If you come to Accra, let's say some of the areas typically where you know that slum areas or the fathers are not gainfully employed or not having much of an income, you tend to see that also. Let's say for those places, you may see about 3 out of 5 children being malnourished. And I'm hoping that we can get the GDHS statistics.
So before we even get to that, why do you think that it is only poor or where economically challenged communities or people who experience this? Because you mentioned that when you go to communities where the parents are not well-to-do, that's where you see a lot of children being malnourished. Is it a case of poverty is a huge factor to the malnutrition of these children in these areas, or are there socioeconomic reasons that cut across the entire country, that causes malnutrition?
We'll pick the 2 different types that we talked about, the undernutrition and the overnutrition. So where children are not gaining weight adequately because they are not getting enough food, and where they are eating too much and they are becoming overweight or obese. So in the scenario of those who are not getting enough food, it is commoner amongst people of low socioeconomic status. So where the family income is not much, you may find that, because then they are more likely to go and buy, let's say, mori for cocoa or for banku. So you may see a huge ball of kenke or a huge ball of banku, and you may not see fish. You may not even see fish. Not even.
Let me tell you an interesting story. So I got my first degree in Winneba, University of Education, and I stayed near the beach. There was a family right behind us, and every morning you hear the woman shouting and say, "Akola ndina mbebre," and I'm thinking, "Akola ndina mbebre." That is so wrong. It's a misconception. They rather need more nutrients and proteins than we do. I just wanted to say, because you mentioned that that happens.
It's a very good point that you have raised too. So the ignorance may be a part, and in a number of these homes, what happens is that the man gets served first, and the bigger of the portion of the protein in the soup or in the stew goes to the man. Meanwhile, by this age, the man has already really got whatever they need, and all this extra just gives them a huge pot belly and increases their risk of diabetes, hypertension, high lipids or high cholesterol in the body and all that. So we would advocate that in the home, parents should ensure that they prioritize the needs, the nutritional needs of their children. Even if there's not enough money in the home, the adult is old enough, or they are already old, and it's the children who need it to be able to grow and develop. So they should be served first if possible, and the portion of the protein, the fruits and the vegetables should be good for them to be able to grow well. Now, ignorance is one bit. You have mentioned it nicely. Even for undernutrition, you may have a family which is well-to-do, but if they are making the wrong choices in terms of the food for the child, the child may also become undernourished. Or if they don't have time to supervise the feeding of the child may be undernourished, even though they can afford to buy the food that the child needs. So that's like one side. And now everybody is saying Ghana is hard, and we all have seen that Ghana is hard. But let us do our bit. The little that we can do for our children, let us try and prioritize them when it comes to sharing the family meal. At every meal, they should get the best that can be given. Now, if we go to the obesity or the overnutrition, it tends to be more common here in our environment in Ghana amongst children who come from wealthier families.
Yes. Rich kids, I mean, it's no, I'm not generalizing, but most rich kids I know are fat. Please go on.
Yeah, and the reason is this, outside in the advanced countries, it's usually the junk food is really cheap. So people who are of lower socioeconomic statuses, like who are poor, are likely to go to some of these malls to get this junk food. Exactly.
Pizza,
Exactly. They are more likely to, because they are cheap. $1 or so. America, $1 is not much. But here, if you convert, then it becomes a lot. But so they are more likely to buy those ones. But here, it is the rich who are going for these foods because in our environment, they are more expensive. And you can also sort of rationalize it that all these things are imported into the country, or majority of them are imported into the country. And if people want to get them, then they have to pay a bit more for it. So the rich are able to afford these, and the children are eating and eating, sometimes overeating too, because there's not much supervision. So the food becomes a form of comfort for them. They are sitting behind the television for hours on end, chewing popcorn, drinking soda.
Even with adults.
Yes.
Comfort eating or stress eating. When you are experiencing any sort of emotional upheaval, you want to just put things in your mouth to ease your situation. But yes.
Yes. So that is why we see the obesity more, or being overweight more, in the rich than in the poor. But again, both can apply in both places. So if you have somebody who is poor and the person is feeding the child mostly carbohydrates, but the child is also eating loads and loads and loads of these carbohydrates, the child can also become big. The child is getting big, but does not have the kind of nutrition that they need. So yes, they are getting big because they have excess energy, and that energy is being stored as fat in the body. But they may not be getting the proteins, they may not be getting the iron, which will go into the body to help build the HB, build the muscle, build the strength and all that. So those are things that we should be aware of. Then the choice of fruits and vegetables. In our parts, people are not eating as much of the fruits and vegetables as we should eat. If you have a plate of food, about a quarter of it should be vegetables, and then less than a quarter should be fruits. I mean, it doesn't have to be all on that plate, but for your meal, for let's say lunch or breakfast or even dinner, that is how you should look at it, with the grains or the carbohydrates being also a little under a quarter, and then the protein being around a quarter too for the meals. And the vegetables and the fruits, they give us the vitamins, they give us the minerals also that we need for these children to grow well. And here, those are also not cheap. So as we are doing this advocacy, we are talking to the government, we are talking to all the key stakeholders. We are talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. This cannot happen if we are importing everything that we need to use in the country. We have a lot of land in the country. We have a lot of people, young people who are energetic and who are willing to work. These people could go in the farm, get us the food, and make us we can sustain ourselves. We can sustain the food that we need. Why do we need to import so much? There's this tribe. I don't know if you've heard of the tribe, the offals. Ghana is importing so much of it. Why do we have to do that? How much nutrition does that give? So we need to educate ourselves and intentionally groom ourselves and make conscious decisions about what we are eating as a people and what we are giving to our children.
A lot of the things you're saying now comes down to awareness or advocacy. Yes. To what extent do you think that the state of our healthcare infrastructure or, institutions like the Ghana Pediatric Society going out to make sure that people are well informed about these issues, to what extent do you think that the health infrastructure we have in the country impede the processes, the smooth processes of these information dissemination activities?
I think that as a country, we are trying. I wouldn't say we have arrived or we have reached where we want to get to, but we are trying. And I commend the efforts of the Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health. There's still a lot more that we can do. If we talk about nutrition for children, it's not just like a Ministry of Agriculture. Everything is interconnected. So the leadership in the country is really key for things to work very well. If we say parents should give their children good food, what it also means is that parents should be in the position to afford good food.
Yes.
You get it? So it's really interconnected, and we need the country to really pay attention to this for us and prioritize the needs of the children. We, the Pediatric Society of Ghana, we a lot of education, stakeholder engagements and all that, and we will continue. However, leadership at different levels. So assuming that you're a school owner, you have a role to play, because if in your canteen or the food that you are serving to the children in the school is not good enough or it's not balanced or it's not healthy, then that's a problem. Sometimes parents will complain that in their house the children don't like eating, they don't like, but when they go to school they will often eat because their peers are eating. And so at every point in time we should be able to offer the children the very best wherever they are, whether they are at home, whether they are at school, whether they've gone out for a picnic or wherever. We should encourage them. And there's also that bit of the branding of our local foods. Our local foods are good, they are nutritious and all. We need to try and project them as a country. You see, so here again the interconnectedness. The government, the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, all these things together, we need to try and see how we can package the things that we have here in Ghana. Instead of all these big fast food joints that are selling junk food, is it possible to package our local food such that your kontomire, very healthy kontomire,
appealing enough that you want to grab a bite on the go at any point. Yeah.
And the children also get interested because now they see that those are what are the foods that are trending. You know children, adolescents and how they make their decisions. So we need to actively try and project our local foods because they are healthy. That's one. And we have all the vegetables, we have all the fruits. It doesn't have to be something imported before it is good enough for the children or because it is healthy. And if we are talking about dollar coming down and all that, pound coming down, then we are talking about importation, looking at what we are bringing in. So what do we have here and how can we use them to improve the health and well-being of the children in Ghana? Exclusive breastfeeding, very important for the first 6 months of life. We strongly advocate for that. During the complementary feeding phase, we said that every family food that is given in the home, the children can eat. Sometimes people are thinking, oh, do I have to go and buy this bottled food or canned food? All imported, So at every stage, we have an opportunity to improve the health and well-being of our children. That's one. But we also have an opportunity to improve our situation as Ghanaians in terms of our economy by some of the choices that we make. And there are different government agencies and they all have different roles to play. We talk about problems with canned tomatoes and all that. Every year we have so much tomatoes, some going rotten. We have so much pineapples. The fruits come in season. Out there, they'll be thinking about how to preserve these to be able to be available all year round. So we are a bit behind in our thinking in some of these aspects, especially the systems, and everything has to work together, and we need a leadership that will really push for some of these things to happen because we really have everything that the children need.
You say children a lot. What age range are you talking about when you say children? Or what is the key period that nutrition plays a vital role in the development or formation of a child? What are the age ranges that we should be looking at that is more critical?
That's a great question. Now we are battling with deaths in children under 5 years And that is a critical, it's a critical window or a critical period, especially also the first 2 years of life. So within this period, we need the children to be giving all the nutrition that they need so that they can grow, their brains can grow well, and they will develop well generally. And if we talk about under 5 mortality, infant mortality and all that, the nutrition affects the children. It is, if they are well nourished, they are going to build their immunities. They are less likely to die from maybe malaria or pneumonia or an infection compared to a child who is undernourished or not well nourished. So that is one of the reasons why we are very interested in this. We all want to support to achieve the SDG goals. We all want our children to thrive and to do very well in the country. We want the country to be in a very good place come 50 years from now, beyond aid, not talking about going beyond aid, but actually being beyond aid. And this is the time for us to put some of these key strategies in place to get our children to grow, to become those adults who can get it done.
Okay. So now how do you identify, or how can you tell if we have those watching us, I'm sure, have kids in the house. How can you tell that your child is leaning toward malnutrition, or how do you identify the problem when it starts so that you nip it in the bud?
Let me begin by using the Road to Health chart. You know, when the pregnant women go for the antenatal care, they are given their maternal and child record books now. So the pregnancy side is there and the child side is there. And thankfully, the growth charts for the children is put in there. So once from birth, they will come for review in hospital, and we will be able to tell how their weights are doing and all.
Okay.
And so once they start like plateauing, or instead of the curve going up, it becomes flat, then we know there's a problem. So our public health nurses are able to help us to pick it up very early. And it could even be before 6 months of age. If it is falling below the line that they started with, then you know that there's a problem. The curves have to be either going up between -2 and +2. They have to be going up, not coming down. So if it's coming down, that's also a problem, and we are able to pick it up. The other thing, so there are late signs which we won't want to see. So if you see your child's hair color changing to becoming brown, sometimes you talk to the mothers and they say, oh, maybe brown, you know. But no, that's not always the case. African child, your hair is black, your hair color is black, not light brown, and then the texture becomes very light and it becomes.
But that is not in any way saying that everyone whose hair is not black or as black has a problem, is it?
Typically, it should be. It should be black. It should be as black, not turning brown.
My hair is not black. Oh. Please go on.
I'll go and talk to your mother.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. So those are some of the things. Then the weight. If you see that, some of the mothers will actually tell you that, oh, like my child has become light, you know, and that tells you that the child is actually losing weight, or the pants that the child usually wear suddenly it's become more loose and they need, you know, to maybe size down or something, when it's not that they were fat and they are trying to lose weight or something. And then there's also another measure that we use, the mid-upper arm circumference, a tape that we use to measure the circumference of the upper arm. So that's this area. We'll measure it and then interpret it accordingly. If it's really low, then we know that there's a problem. So all these help us. Sometimes the mother is also able to say that, hey, like the conjunctiva has become whitish or pale. So mothers know that the under the eye, under the conjunctiva should be red or pinkish. So when it becomes whitish, then you know that the child is pale. There are even times when the child's lips will even become very pale, under the tongue will become very pale. So
we have the statistics on your screens now. Doctor, do you want to take us through that?
So I think this is really describing the stunting. And if we say stunting, it means that the child is shorter than they should be. And there are standards for that. We have WHO growth standards that we use to tell that if it's below the -2 Z-score, then there's a problem. If it's within the -2 +2, then those are fine. And if the child is wasted, it means that the child has lost the height or is not gaining in height as the child should, and it's not also gaining weight as a child should. And usually it means that it's chronic malnutrition or malnutrition that has gone on for a long time.
Okay.
Yes.
Wasting.
Yeah, so that's the wasting that we just spoke about. And yeah, so there is the weight, then the height, then the two combined, yes, and then the overweight and all that. So basically those are just to describe what. Yeah.
Now, what do you do when you notice that your child is malnourished? Immediately, what do you do? At what point do you run to the clinic, to the hospital?
If the system is working properly,
I like how you said it, yeah.
Yes, these children should be picked up. As a mother is going for the weighing clinic, which is an intervention, the Ghana Health Service has established this for many years. If mother is going with father or father is going with the child to the weighing center or the child welfare clinics, then all these things will be picked up very early, and then interventions will be initiated. If the child needs to be giving any supplements, that is done. But often it is the education around the feeding, and the weight loss or the failure to gain weight adequately often starts around the weaning period. That's around the 5 months. Some start early, so but it's supposed to be from 6 months that you start adding on other feeds, the family food. So sometimes that is when the babies start losing weight, or they start not gaining weight as they should gain. And so once it is picked up, then the interventions can be started from the clinic. There are a few of the mothers who may not even be going for these wellness checks. They may just stay at home for different reasons. Some of them, they won't go because they don't have that white cloth that the mothers will show off at the welfare clinic, which is also a problem. But once things are working well, it is picked up early, and counseling on nutrition for the child is initiated. If more needs to be done, that's also done. There are times when they are not gaining weight, maybe because the child has a congenital heart disease or has a problem. And once we identify all these, we are able to initiate the appropriate interventions to ensure that the child does well. But it centers around the nutrition or what the child is taking in.
Okay, you said if the systems are working well.
Yes.
So at what role does government or governmental policies play in ensuring that our children are safe, are well nourished, and become the future leaders that? Are there already existing measures in place from the government?
Yes. So the measures, through the Ghana Health Service, that is the child welfare clinics that the children are sent to by their mothers and fathers in the first, let's say, 5 years for their checks and then the immunization. So these are already well established. The other bits, improving the economic status of the mothers and all that, those ones, definitely government has a key role to play. But many of the key things have already been put in place, and we need to do what we can to support the systems, encourage the mothers to keep going. But it's also very important at this time because of the economic situation in the country. I know that things are hard, not just in Ghana, everywhere things are a bit harder, and we need to see what we can do as a nation to improve the lot of the members or the citizens of the country.
Are you collaborating with any non-governmental organizations, or are there any collaborations currently that are helping you, charter this course?
So the Ghana Health Service is supporting us.
Okay.
Yes, and then the Ministry of Health is also supporting. We have a few other partners, the VIU, Pediatric Epilepsy Training, BPNA, they are supporting, because we'll have some pre-conferences, Africa Health Supplies, we're looking at UNICEF, WHO to see, yes. So far, so good. There's a lot that can be done, and we are committed to doing our bit while we still can to improve the situation for the children in Ghana.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor. Your final words before we wrap this up.
The AGSF is happening in Ho. That's the 1st to 3rd of February 2023. And as always, is going to be about the children.
What is AGSM?
Annual General Scientific Meeting.
Good.
Yes, so it's like a big meeting for all members and stakeholders to join us to plan for the rest of the years and see how we can improve the well-being of the child in Ghana. Just to also add on that anybody who has children in your home, when it comes to mealtime or even before mealtime, you need to consider the needs of the child.
First.
Yes, first. Even if it is not your child.
Yeah.
If the child eats well, grows well, becomes somebody in future, they'll definitely remember you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We were having a conversation. We just finished a conversation with Dr. Hilda Boy, who is a pediatrician at Kolebu Teaching Hospital and also the president of the Pediatric Society of Ghana. And she shed light on child malnutrition and the causes, the effects, and how we can avoid that. Stay tuned. There's more coming up next with Benjamin Akapo.
A defibrillator is a life-saving equipment. When the heart is not beating normally, the defibrillator is used to deliver controlled electric shock to the heart. This shock can help restore the heart's normal rhythm in cases of sudden cardiac arrest. In countries like South Korea and the UK, defibrillators can be found in public places like pubs, markets, and crowded places. What about Ghana? The Ghana Harmonized Health Facility Assessment Report 2023 says only 5% of hospitals in Ghana have the required basic equipment in consulting rooms. We make our way to Ghana's oil city, Takoradi. The Fiankwanta Regional Hospital receives referrals from across the region. It is fair to say that it serves over 3 million population. Apart from cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, which involves chest compressions and rescue breaths, can the hospital save your life if you go into cardiac arrest?
I would say that we're doing the best that we can under the circumstances. At the A&E, where you are most likely to be taken to, we have just one defibrillator, but for a unit of that size, we should have more. So in your case, if you are the only one who needs the machine at that point in time, yes, we will be able to do it for you. But if there are many patients who need the same service, then it becomes a challenge.
Dr. Joseph Kujo Tambil, the medical superintendent of the hospital, is passionate. He wants his medical staff to get the best equipment to serve patients. But he also wears another hat to manage the information he gives the media and also assure residents of the Western region and beyond that they can rely on his facility. With some hesitation, he admits that even the only available defibrillator has challenges and calls for resourcing of the hospital.
And the defibrillator doesn't work properly, like it function
with
well.
A few challenges, but with batteries and all that, but when called upon, it would function. But like I said, we need more of those machines rather than just one.
So we went to the Accident Emergency Center to find out how the facility handles cases of cardiac arrest.
We have one automated external defibrillator. It's faulty because the battery is irreplaceable. So the battery went down and we can't replace it. So now it's malfunctioning. So when if our patient suddenly arrests, it's difficult for us to determine the rhythm so that we can apply the shock. We are not able to do that. This is a life-saving machine. You can have cardiac arrest at any point in time. When we are intervening, it's a must that we have an automated external defibrillator.
The only defibrillator, which is now 40, was even donated by foreign students who saw the need for the equipment in the emergency room. To make you understand the issue better, Regina Kweku, the unit head of the Accident and Emergency Center, shares a recent story.
We had this patient that was brought in with electrical shock. With that one, because of the external electrical current, it sends the rhythm to a different rhythm. So if we had this, we could have reversed, we could have shocked the patient to set the rhythm to the normal. But because we didn't have, we continued with our CPR, and when we were all exhausted, we had to call it.
For those who do not understand what the term call it simply means they had pronounced the patient dead. How often do they call it?
So it does happen very often. Very often.
The search for a defibrillator at the Fiankwanta took me to the intensive care unit. Here, they provide critical care to patients. The unit also needs a defibrillator. Is there one here? Mavis Mills is a supervisor at the ICU.
We need, for now, we don't even have a defibrillator here. They brought one, but they said there was a problem with their battery. So they sent it, and for now we don't have a defibrillator.
So just like the accident and emergency center, what do nurses do to save the patients who needs defibrillation?
For now, we can't do anything. What we can do is to give the CPR and advance to the drugs and other stuff. But when it gets to the part where we would have to shock, we don't have it. So it's a concern.
Enough of the defibrillator tool. Now let's focus on another important tool, a ventilator. A ventilator is a medical device that helps people breathe when they are unable to do so on their own. It plays a critical role in supporting patients' respiratory functions.
We need transport ventilators. As I already indicated, here is the regional emergency center. So they bring all sort of trauma cases, surgical cases. Sometimes you need to put them on ventilator. You need to take the work of breathing from them.
Now that we know the importance of a ventilator, let's find out whether the Fiankwanta Emergency Center has one.
We don't have ventilators too at the emergency. So we do with our normal oxygen and cylinder. Sometimes you need to intubate the patient and put them on ventilators so that the ventilator will do the work of breathing for them. But we don't also have ventilators. It's part of the basic equipment that we need at the emergency.
So we go back to the intensive care unit to find out whether there is a ventilator.
We had problems. We realized we had technical problems with the ventilators. We couldn't use them. So we take cases in here where we didn't need ventilators. We went to school to learn to care for critically ill patients, and then you have the space and everything to work, but then small issues like ventilators and other equipment are a limitation to practicing what you're going to learn. It's really a problem. This particular one was giving dry air instead of moist air.
Of what use is a ventilator in an ICU if it is not functional? The Accident Emergency Center lacks so many equipment like monitors, perfusers, and many more.
Like our patient monitors, this is a 33-bed capacity emergency, and we have only one patient monitor, which is not adequate for all the patients that we receive in. Sometimes we wish that we have more so that all our critical patients will be put on monitor so that we'll be able to monitor them well. But here is the case that we have only one, so we make do with the only one that we have.
Dr. Tambil believes if government retools them, they can provide the best care ever.
At the moment, I said that we would do with more defibrillator machines. We would do with cardiac monitors for patients who need critical monitoring. We will need a ventilator at least there, because at times when the doctors need to escalate the care to give the patient an opportunity to survive. The standards are that we should have at least one functional ventilator in the accident and emergency.
It is now obvious that finding a working ventilator and defibrillator at Fiankwanta, Simakin, to searching for a needle in a haystack. But the story is not all that gloomy. Government is building a new hospital complex. However, should government focus on completing the building before retooling the hospital? Or should the government provide tools now to save many lives?
Well, if you are anywhere in the Western region, and when something happens to you, like an accident, or you have a heart attack, or some other condition, you are most likely to be brought to Efiankwanta. And if we are not in the best situation to be able to help you, the consequences can be dire. So we want to appeal to all of them to look at this place. Let's collaborate and see where they can put their money in to improve on the quality of services for Efiankwanta. And if they do so, it is for the entire citizenry of the Western region and even beyond.
Clearly, the Efiankwanta Regional Hospital needs healing. Jojo Kopna, Joy News.
Them get eyes, but them know they see. Them get heart, but them know they feel.
Welcome back on the AM show. And of course, we take you back to our election headquarters. It's 2 days to the parliamentary primaries of the governing New Patriotic Party. We've been hosting some aspirants in the course of this week. Today is going to be no different from the rest. Today we host someone who wants to be parliamentary candidate for Ibirim. He's in the person of Frank Ahima Mreku. He is our guest now on the show. Mr. Mreku, a very good morning to you, sir. You may have to unmute so you can hear me, Mr. Mreku. Hello, Frank. Hello, Frank. Well, it doesn't appear Mr. Mreku can hear me. Basically, we're going to try to engage him on what exactly his vision is, his achievements so far in that constituency, why he even wants to be a member of parliament for that constituency, and what we can expect him to bring on board. Of course, we'll also look at what he thinks he's going to use to marshal his forces, to marshal the resources needed to convince delegates that he is the right person to actually get the nod in Ibirim. We'll try to get that connection up and running with Frank Ahima Mreku, who hopes to get the nod to become member of parliament or the candidate for the MPP in Ibirim. Mr. Mreku, a very good morning to you once more.
Yeah, hi, good morning to you, Benjamin.
You're playing hide and seek with me. Good to have you.
Apology. You know, last minute like this, there are a lot of political dynamics.
I see. So let's start off with your constituency. I'm sure you've lived in that constituency for a while and all of that, like many of your colleagues would tell me. But why is it that you want to become member of parliament? Let's start from there.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin, once again. I have lived in this constituency all my life. I'm a native, first of all. I have taught here at Brim Secondary School over 10 years. I have been the past constituency secretary for 4 years, way back 2009. I was a constituent secretary. I've served this party in various capacities. And then when I also got the opportunity to work at local government service as special assistant to Dr. Nana Atuata, the people of Abrim got to know that, yes, indeed, the work here, Mreku can do it better than we are seeing now. Having said that, Benjamin, it is also striking to note that Newmont Gold is here. Mine and Abrim, there's Newmont Gold here. And apart from that, the people here are mostly farmers. And my vision, my contribution to the people here They bought into my vision, especially the delegates and the town folks, my support to them in terms of donations. They know Mriku is always there for them. And they feel that that seeming disconnect between the incumbent, the sitting MP and the constituent, Mriku can be brought on board to bridge that gap.
Right. No, go ahead. I was just interjecting.
So having said that, I have articulated my vision clearly to the delegates. I have told them that when they give me the mandate coming Saturday, 3 major things will be brought on board. First of all, I'm bringing what you call the agro stock depot concept. This is predominantly
agro stock depot. Is that what you said?
Agro stock depot, yeah. What this means is that all the communities in Abrim, I'm going to have a depot where farming inputs, because apart from the mining, everybody one way or the other engages in farming as well. So we are predominantly farmers, like I've indicated earlier.
Right.
The agro stock depot, I am going to bring all the farming inputs, be it weedicide, pesticide, fertilizer, cocoa spray machine, from the depot, so that the cost of, let's say, weedicide, which is 60 cedis or 80 cedis at Nkoko or Abrim, I will get it from the depot at a reduced price, say 30 Ghana cedis. And then
how are you going to manage that?
You mean in terms of funding?
In terms of the reduced prices?
Absolutely. Once I'm buying from depot, I'm going to get it at the depot price, at the manufacturing price. So by extension, this our economy, this agro chemical I'm talking about, if it is 60 cedis on the market, if you go to the depot where it is being manufactured, like for instance, you go to Crocodile Market, you want machete for your people, and it is sold at 40 cedis for one on the market. Better than you can agree with me that you can get it around 20-25 from the manufacturing place.
But you know why it ends up being 40 cedis sometimes? Because transportation, bad roads, if it comes to agri-produce, you would find so many other factors. So it's not just as though people slapped these on them without some mitigating circumstances. So that means basically you are also willing to run a loss in order to satisfy your constituents. That's what you're saying.
But I'm there to serve the people. So if it has to do with transportation costs and all of that, I need to absorb those costs for the people. So by extension, you realize that we largely reduce the cost on all of these farming inputs for the ordinary person in Abrim.
Okay.
This is something that the people talk about all the time, and I have piloted it and it has worked successfully. So I am of strong conviction that when I'm giving the nod, and with this, of course, I'm going to link directly with the manufacturing organization, the MD and all of that, so that I get it at that manufacturing price. So by extension, I'm going to reduce the cost on that. Now, let me just cite one example. For instance, the cocoa spray machine. My people always complain that, the cost, they cannot buy the quality one and all of that. If I'm put there as an MP, these are some of the things. At the factory price, the quality ones, I'm going to get them, then they are going to buy at the same price without profit. Largely, the cost or the high cost has to do with the intermediaries, somebody adding the cost from here and there and all of that. So I'm going to help the people. So that is the agro stock concept. I'm bringing something we call the MP's remedial school. All mining communities in Ghana, there are a lot of young ones who engages in what you call galamsey and all of that. So when I'm brought on board with the MP's remedial school, and remember, Ben, in Abrim here, in Abrim constituency, Newmont Gold has established what you call the Newmont Action Foundation, which is a foundation that sought to address the needs of the constituent in terms of education, but it's purposely for those within the catchment areas. So when I'm brought on board with the MP's remedial school, I'm going to make sure that all of these young ones with deficits in their results and all of that, we are going to help them register, receipt, and then those from the catchment areas, Newmont Gold with the NAGDA Foundation will support them. And those who are not from that side, I'm going to make sure that the MP's Common Fund and then other needed funds will be put in place to help address that needs. And then lastly, I'm bringing what you call the People's Assembly. And this assembly
all right, we seem to have a challenge.
Basically, the assembly members and all of that.
Go ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
Are you there?
Yes, go ahead.
So this People's Assembly concept, it is going to address.
Frank, so from our end, we're having challenges with your connection. I see you now. Let's try this again. The last concept.
Is it better, Benjamin?
It is. Please go ahead.
Okay, so it's basically what I'm saying is that the People's Assembly is going to be a number of chiefs and elders, the clergy, opinion leaders, assembly members, where the youth, the citizenry will get the opportunity to more or less cross-examine the MP. For instance, if there's a complaint of a school building that has been ripped off and they've written to you as an MP and there's no response, how will be that connection between the citizenry and then the MP? And that is what is lacking, and I'm bringing this thing on board. Having said that, when we come to the delegates, then you realize that now there is that seeming disunity between the constituency chairman and then the MP. At the point, some of us, we had to contribute to help sustain the party in Abrim. Monthly donation of cash, 200 cedis for funerals and other stuff. So we have worked here, we have supported the community, we have served, we've stayed here, we've taught over years, and they know us. And we trust God that come Saturday, the good people of Abrim, they are going to reward us. But I cannot mention all of this without letting your viewers know of what I have brought on board, the famous Aponche Cup. It is the only surviving activity.
Frank, if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Frank?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you said something. The famous what? Aponche name?
Aponche Cup.
Aponche what?
It is basically football, inter-community football games.
Okay.
Cup, yeah, football cup. Aponche Cup. So it's basically inter-community football games. And as I'm speaking to you, I have supported all the communities, 46 communities in Abrim, with footballs and GC, and we've done games to unite the youth and all of that. So as I'm speaking to you, we are 4 in number, and I can assure you that the people are able to connect well with me. They know I'm there for them, and I'm the only person they can look up to in terms of maximization of votes. And just to add, the year 2020, we recorded a decline in our vote in terms of the parliamentary, which is very alarming. Over the years, the gap between NDC and MPP in Abrim is 7,000, and it's been declining, and now it's 3,000. And if you are not careful, and we don't see these elections as more of parliamentary than presidential, we are going to lose the seat. And this is why Mriku is coming in as a fresh person with new energy, somebody who has stayed in the constituency and knows the geopolitics of the area. And trust me, the people will reward me, and my God will speak.
Right. Now you're looking at the incumbent in the area. The NDC polled 15,110 votes in the 2020 elections, accounting for 43.54%. And then there was John Osei Frimpong with 19,151 votes. So a difference of about almost exactly 4,000 votes.
Right.
You are going to toe-to-toe with John Osei Frimpong. You say you've been with the people, you've taught for 10 years, you've instituted the Aponche Cup and all of that. But it's still a tall order going against John Osei Frimpong. How do you think you're going to do this? You're not the only one going around doing things.
I have indicated to you earlier, the delegates have bought into my vision, and this vision...
How many delegates are we looking at?
Say again?
How many delegates are we looking at?
We are looking at 520 delegates, including the MP himself.
Okay. And as a former constituency rep, are you voting yourself as a delegate, or because you are former, you don't get to vote?
No. I don't have a voting right, but they know me and they know what I'm bringing on board. And Ben, the point is that all these point I articulated to you, these are things that are not contingent on the release of MPs Common Fund. It's my personal vision. I have always maintained that when you're an MP and you sought to list the things or the project being executed by the district assembly and all of that, and you arrogate all of those things to yourself as though you have done all of those things, that is fine. But I'm telling you, there is more to be done. You need to have your personal vision. And they think that Abrim has gotten to a stage where we need a dynamic person, somebody with new energy to bridge the gap. Like you mentioned, if you had gone back the year 2012 and you had looked at the results, and then 2016 and all of that, you realize that our votes keep declining. And Mriku is going to bridge that gap. I'm able to connect with the base here in Abrim, the party people and the ordinary constituents. I'm able to connect well with them, and that is the rationale of being put there as an MP. Because you are supposed to enact laws and all of that, but if the people who put you there, there's that kind of disconnect, then you've lost it. And this is something new I'm bringing on board, the agro-stop depot concept, the MP's remedial school. And just to add, the attrition rate, the rate at which teachers are leaving the constituency is very alarming. And when I'm brought on board, we are going to make sure that teachers' personal career growth. If you are posted to Abrim as a teacher and you teach for 2 years, 3 years, as an MP, it should be my personal project to ensure that you upgrade yourself by doing further courses and all of that. And this MP's award scheme and all of that, we are bringing all of those things on board to ensure that teachers would also have a future so that they don't leave the constituency as we see now. If you come to the education office right now, you'll be shocked. The rate at which teachers are leaving, and it's alarming. So all of these are the very basic things for which the delegates are bringing me this Saturday, so that I can help address their needs and all of that.
Right. I have taken a look at the voting pattern. The gentleman, John Frimpong, was in the 7th Parliament, so 2016 as well. The difference was about 7,000, 19,000 and 12,000 in 2016.
I mentioned that.
No, hold on. In 2016, it was about 19,000 to 12,000. Of course, 2020 was about 19,000 to 15,000, a difference of 4,000. When you look at 2016, it was 19,000, 7,000, 12,000 with a difference of 7,000. But when you go to 2012, it wasn't this current MP, it was Esther Obeng Dapa with 17,000 votes, and then Mavis Amafrimpong with 14,000 votes. The difference there, about less than 3,000, actually. So in terms of the voting patterns, in 2012, it was actually closer than it was even in 2020 with the 4,000 gap. So between 2012 and now, the MPP's votes have appreciated by at least 2,000 thereabouts. It's stagnated at 19,000 plus. And the NDC has also moved from around 14,000 upwards to about 15,000 plus. So those are the real dynamics in there. But let me find out from you. These delegates, the over 500 of them, they are going to vote. Usually, I mean, you would want to transport them and all of that. Are you going to do that as well? Are you going to be giving the delegates any perks?
Oh, well, I just met them a while ago, and I have told them that they have to come on their own.
Okay, you're not giving them transportation?
Well, when they come on their own, they will meet me somewhere, and then I'll get them some transportation.
Okay. How much are you giving them?
Depending on where you are coming from. You know, if you are in Abrim where the elections are going to be held, and somebody is from, let's say, Mwana Praso or Chapiase, is going to differ.
So let's say someone from Chapiase, how much are you forecasting to give them for transportation?
Oh, let's say 100 cities will be okay.
Okay, so which communities, how far are most of the delegates that are coming? Are a lot of them from those areas like Chapiase, or are more of them in Brim proper? Brim?
Well, it's scattered. You know, Abrim is the district capital. The district is Brim North and the constituency is Abrim. So Abrim is the district capital. Most of the delegates The largest electoral area is in Abrim. There are 55 people coming from there. Of course, we have Pankese and Mwana Praso and Ekwiase also coming from the other side, about 47 and then 40 thereabout. So it's scattered. It's scattered.
All right, so let's just do this. I like doing mathematics with you, members of parliament, and those aspiring to be members of parliament. Your delegates are over 500, even if I peg them at 500. And I assume that there are going to be, let me just do this. There are going to be 200 delegates coming from Trapiase and other areas, right? 200. That'll be 20,000 cedis. And if I assume that the rest of the 300 are coming from Ibirim and you are giving them only 50 cedis, that is 15,000 cedis. Together, 35,000 cedis. Are you willing to spend 35,000 cedis on TNT just for just on
D-Day? You know that this job, before you put yourself out there, if you look at the filing we did and the all of those things, you realize that if you are not a sitting MP, you'll be paying close to about 80,000. So you should be prepared before, coming on board. And
but that's exactly where my concern is. You need at least 80,000 plus. I'm asking on the average, the ordinary Ghanaian, how many people have 80,000 cedis sitting by to work with? So how do you get these kinds of money to pump into?
Well, first of all, I'm a contractor of good standing. At the point when I left local government as special assistant to Dr. Nana Atuata, I registered my company and I'm working. So I have done some savings. And then again, Ben, you know that this game called politics, you cannot do it all by yourself. People should be ready to support your vision and by extension, support you financially. So I have other people supporting me.
Do you know why I usually get curious about this? So what is it in Parliament that makes all of you willing to expend 80,000? And of course, this is just for the election. Of what may come even before is something different. 100,000, 200,000 to get to Parliament. You say you want to serve the people and you're spending all these sums of money. What is in Parliament that makes you willing to spend all these kinds of money?
I think that this job is a calling, Benjamin.
It's a calling.
I'm a servant leader, and one key characteristic of a servant leader is you put the interest of your followers first, and that is what I do, and that is what I do to even derive the greatest satisfaction. So it is not about what I'm going to get financially from Parliament, but it is my ability, my lobbying skills, what I've been able to do for the people. When I got the opportunity to work with Dr. Nana Atuata for almost 3.5 years, what I have done passport more than any other person in a dream to support. In terms of jobs, I have given them jobs, police, immigration, fire service, and all of that. You should be able to get off your seat, move around.
Anyway, the feed is patchy, but you say you've been able to secure jobs for them.
And police support your people.
Right. We have to go in about 2 minutes. What I find interesting else, you say you've been able to secure jobs for them, police, immigration, and the rest. So that also feeds into party people, whether NDC or MPP, in this case the MPP, always filling our services with people from party. You know that in itself is problematic. That is why we are getting a lot of police officers and officers here and there who are not necessarily sticking to the script because they may not necessarily qualify, but we are pushing them in there. But the final bit I have for you, since you love your constituency so much, before you speak to your delegates and then we can go, since you love your constituency so much, it also means that you are willing to expend all of this money, and even if you lose, you will not be too sad, right? Hello, Frank? Hello, Frank, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yes, did you get the question?
No, I didn't hear you well.
I'm saying since you love your constituency so much, you are spending all this money and all of that, but that also means that even if you were to lose, you wouldn't, no wahala, right? No shaking because you love your constituency.
Not at all. I have been there for this party, and whether in opposition or in government, we support the party. So I'm a born and bred MPP. So regardless of the outcome, we are going to be there to support the party. But the bottom line is
so your final comments in some 30 seconds. Reach out to your delegates. We have to go.
Well,
30 seconds.
This is a special appeal to the delegates. They know me. I have come to them. I have told them what I'm capable of doing. I have sold my vision to them, and I'm appealing to them that they should not disappoint. This is the time for them to bring Reku Ejumera. I have been there with them and all of that. I've supported this party ever since. There are people who are in the race. They have just joined. They should reward hard work. They should reward loyalty, and so that at least there will be that kind of a record in a dream where if you just come and you say you are from here, meanwhile you haven't stayed here and all of that, and you just come with, you say you have money, that kind of talk should cease. We should reward hard work so that the city, there will be development, so that the local people would have that kind of the needed support and development we are all seeking to bring on board. Right. So it's a special appeal. They should vote number 3. And number 3 is a divine number. God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
All right.
So I know God is on my side, and my God will speak.
Frank, thank you very much for joining the conversation. We wish you the very best as you seek to become the parliamentary candidate for the MPP in Birim. That is Frank Ahima Mreku. Come Saturday, he will be on the ballot. He says he's number 3, and he wants to get the nod of his people. Well, that's how we cap off the conversation today. We've spoken about child malnutrition. I hope you didn't miss that one. We also had the conversation about the various labor unions and how they feel aggrieved about the different situations. Not in the least, 15% to be added on as VAT to electricity. And now, this bit. Well, from Sweetie Abochi and yours truly, we wish you the very best of the day. Catch us same time tomorrow. But up next, yes, it is Aisha Ibrahim with, Joy News Desk.